This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by Oscar or Emmy or even Tony. To I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob, and this week, I would say, is my most hotly anticipated episode of the year. Every year, I look forward to this episode more than anything else, but not just the episode itself, but just, I would say, it's my most hotly anticipated conversation of the year as well. We are, of course, talking about our favorite movies of 2023, and I've finally compiled my list, although there's still a few I haven't seen. But it's less the list I'm looking forward to talking about and more the person I'm talking with. Obviously, a cavalcade of wonderful guests on the show that I'm talking to about movies, but there's one, without ranking friends, there's one who sits firmly above the rest, who really likes to dive deep on movies with me, and I can't think of anyone better to go through our top 10 movies with than the wonderful Nick Owen. Welcome back to the show, mate.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back, James, on your wonderful podcast, and especially for the 2023 year-end wrap-up. I also love listening to these when other people do them, and I'm excited to get the chance to talk about last year's films.
Could you imagine if I just didn't invite you back to the show? Like it just went dark. That'd be a real jerk move. No, it's something we've done for over a decade now. Like even when we haven't been podcasting, like one thing we always try to do is sit down and be like, all right, flicks of the previous year, what do you got? And just kind of break them down and talk about them. So
yeah, and I think like we were just sort of in a little preamble there talking
a 45-minute preamble
about like what our list would look like. And I kind of feel, I don't know if you would agree, but for most of the past 10 years, I reckon we'd have minimum 3 or 4 of the same films. I guess with the landscape of movies in the last like 10 or 15 years, it would be a lot of like superhero films that we'd be seeing together and things like that. But yeah, I don't know, this year, like I was looking at my list and I reckon like we'll struggle to have much crossover, which I think is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I agree. And what's interesting is I wouldn't go out and say that 2023 has been the strongest year for films. Your screen has frozen. Can you hear me okay? We may have lost Nick. Can you hear me okay?
You're a bit delayed.
I'm back? Cool. No worries at all. We may need to turn our cameras off if it keeps happening. There's something going weird with my internet today. I was just saying, like, I don't know if I would say 2023 was the strongest year in films, especially as far as franchises go. Like, but I would say when it came to come up with my top 10, it was one of the hardest decisions I've had in recent years. Like, there was, whilst, yeah, like I've definitely can think of like bigger years, I think that the quality was so on the same par. It was really hard to separate. Like, I watched 43 new releases in 2023, and it took a really long time to whittle it down to 10. I really struggled. I actually think it was a really consistent year for movies, which was great.
Yeah, I really agree with that, actually. I was just thinking about that as I was rearranging my list for like the 5th time since making it, because so many of them, particularly in my top 3 or 4, take that with a grain of salt this year, because like I could have swapped any of them out or swapped the order around and it still would have made sense to me. So no, I agree with you there.
Yeah, I agree. Like there's a flick. I would say my top 2 are very interchangeable. And like particularly for the longest time, like number 2 was probably gonna be my number 1. And I think just down to rewatchability, down to how many times I've seen it, like its effectiveness, like it's just taken the edge as number 1. But one thing I really liked about this year is that there's a lot of genres that I've maybe not given much representation to in previous years that have really kind of come to a head this year. So for example, in previous years, I've never really had many animated films kind of pop in. It's just been like, look, there's nothing. But this year, I think I've got 3 or 4 animated films in my top 10. And that's never happened before. It was such a strong year for I mean, animation's not a genre, but I guess that style, the animated style of film, it's yeah, it was a strong year for animation. Um, and superheroes do make an appearance. They always make an appearance, but um, it's interesting, like seeing the battle of Marvel versus DC continue. Like I've always believed that, like coexistence, just love it all. But I think for the first time since 2013, I think DC had a stronger slate than Marvel. Like 2013, DC only had Man of Steel, but I do think it's a better film than Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World, even though I love them all. This year, we saw some, a couple of strong entries from Marvel, but I think DC really lent in with consistency. Now I know I'm probably in the minority there. A lot of people didn't like DC's output, but I really enjoyed their kind of focus on family-driven story this year. So if people are wondering what's going on, Nick's just catching up on the delay. Can you hear me? We are experiencing some tech. Can you hear me okay now, Nick?
I can.
I've just turned my camera off. I think it's the computer's working too hard.
Okay. All
Did you
right.
hear
We'll give
anything I
this.
said?
No, I think I got the gist of. Well, you were sort of saying that for the first time in quite a long time, you were saying that DC had a stronger slate.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. The listeners, it was really more for the listeners. They'll hear it. That's all good. Um,
Yeah. Well, what's funny is, I must say I lost touch a little bit with the DC cinematic universe this year. And I sort of, maybe a question for you was like, it felt like, particularly late in the year, there was a sort of like almost like a lack of fanfare around. So, like, I maybe take the first Aquaman that came out and it was a massive deal. And then I feel
mm,
like they sort of just, I don't want to use the word dumped these films out, but I felt like is it the Blue Beetle? I hope I'm getting that right.
yeah,
The Blue Beetle, Shazam 2, and Aquaman 2, and Flash. Well, the Flash was quite a big release actually, but it really felt that was just like, hey, we've committed to these films, but we need to get them out before the reset, the James Gunn reset. I don't know. That's kind of how it seemed from a
that's
distance.
exactly what it was. There was so little marketing. Like Flash was pulled out of theaters in 3 weeks. Um, like a film that has been in development hell for almost a decade. Like they finally got it made, and because of the new universe, it was in and out within 3 weeks. Aquaman, I don't remember seeing a poster for Aquaman. There was no promotional material because you're absolutely right. Like the focus is the new now, so we just need to get these out. And I remember seeing some people online being like, "I'm not even going to bother with it because this universe is dead." And to me, it's like, yeah, but it wasn't that long ago where there weren't cinematic universes. Like,
Mm,
so what? Like that shouldn't matter. Like, go see the film for the film. And like Aquaman 2, like tells a standalone story. Like it's a sequel to the first one. It barely references any of the other universe stuff, and that's fine because it continues the story from the previous film, and I think it did a pretty good job. I think it was like I saw a lot of people. I saw two kinds of reviews: people absolutely tearing it apart because the universe is dead, and people being like, you know what, it's actually not bad. Um, I gave a very honest review after seeing it. I said, guys, it's good. I really liked
mm,
it. Like, say what you will about Amber Heard as a person. I thought her performance in the flick was fine. Like I thought she was all right in it. She is mostly replaced by an octopus. Like they did cut her scenes down, but it's not like the story they told was never really about her, and it was very much about Aquaman and Orm anyway. Um,
mm,
but like I know she's like come under a lot of scrutiny for the whole Johnny Depp thing. And whilst I don't want to get too political on such a fun show, I will say that I'm sure both parties aren't completely innocent. And unlike most human beings, she had all of her dirty laundry aired for the whole world to see, and that's got to be pretty tough,
mm.
like
Yeah.
if you have like a bad relationship with someone, or if you have like something embarrassing happen, maybe 20 people find out. If on social media, maybe 100, but this was millions of people. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
Like, I feel bad for both of them. Again, like I don't know the ins and outs of it. Like we'll never know the truth of what really happened with them. But you got to like you can't like, well, you're not going to watch Aquaman because of something you heard might be true. Like I don't know. Like it's a weird thing
Yeah.
to kind of compare. Like yeah, and also like, and that's the other thing. Like people are like, we're not going to see because the universe is dying. It's like, but what about all the people who worked hard on that movie? And I don't even mean the actors. Like, what about the writers? What about the CG artists and everything else? It's crazy.
Yeah, and another thing I picked up on, and it might just be my wishful thinking, but you know, looking at my list in totality, it's I would say of the past 10 years, the the least amount of IP based films that I've had on there. Now there's still a few because there's just not that many movies being made that are standalone movies. But I sort of thought that the the standalone movie made a bit of a fight back last year.
Hmm. I actually think I have the most IP driven films on my list than I'd ever had. Normally I have one or two. I try not to like load it up, but I think last year, for the most part, was pretty good for franchises. Like, but not the ones we're used to seeing. Like we expect Marvel to have a killer year. We expect DC to pump out at least one good movie. I like all the DC movies, but if you're going with the general audience consensus, maybe one good movie.
Mm,
Um, and I'm not saying there's not representation from those studios, but the IP driven stuff I've got on here is actually stuff that we haven't seen a lot of in recent years, or haven't seen done very successfully. But this year they knocked it out of the park. So um, it is IP driven, but it's IP that we're not used to seeing as much of, I think.
mm,
Um,
mm.
Now I didn't get to see everything I wanted to. I've worked really hard. I've watched 21 movies this year already. Today is the 18th. It's the 18th. I've been trying like a madman to catch up on the stuff I've missed. There are 4 flicks I really want to say I haven't seen. So I don't know how I missed it, but Mission Impossible I didn't get to see. I ordered it on Monday when I realized it was already out, hoping that it would get delivered before Thursday, because today's Thursday record. It got delivered this morning. I was like, damn it, I'm not going to watch it before the episode. Um, Past Lives I haven't had a chance to see yet. I really want to watch that on Amazon. Poor Things, the new Yorgos Lanthimos film with Emma Stone, that drops in cinemas today, so I'll see it on the weekend. And Anatomy of a Fall, I don't even know how to watch that one. It's a Swedish film, I think. Um,
Yeah, Anatomy of a Fall is, I believe, French, and
okay,
it is not released yet. That's on my list of wanted to see but didn't. Um,
so
yeah,
I haven't seen those four, and I'm halfway through Exorcist Believer, which I'm actually really enjoying. People like shredded that film apart, but I'm really enjoying Exorcist Believer, but I haven't finished it yet.
yeah, yeah. I had a similar list actually. I can't wait to see Poor Things. Um, really wanted to see Anatomy of a Fall. Also wanted to see Zone of Interest. There was a really interesting film from what I understand. It's not available for us. Yeah, it's one of those frustrating ones that was released a few months ago on Netflix in like the US, called May December, starring
Oh yeah,
Julianne Natalie Portman. Looked really good. Of course, the great Michael Mann released a new film, which is something to celebrate. Ferrari,
yeah.
starring Adam Driver. Now, I'd love to see that with you in some sort of gold class environment.
I got a
Uh,
couple of vouchers left over from Christmas still, so we can make. I saw. Well, I'll save it because I went and saw a movie last week in Gold Class because the only session available, and I had a grand old time.
oh, nice. And the final one I think I might be seeing with my partner tomorrow night is The Holdovers, which I'm really excited to
Oh,
see.
nice! I want to see that as well. Actually, I love me some Giamatti. He's getting some buzz. He's getting some awards. So
Yeah, he's sort of like breathing down Cillian Murphy's neck, is what I hear, for sort of
mm,
best actor, best performance of the year. So interesting to see.
yeah, nice one.
And I also
Yeah.
feel like he's in that sweet spot for um, you probably should have won a few of these before. So we give you kind of like Al Pacino winning for what was it?
Scent of a Woman. Is that what he?
Yeah, Scent of a Woman. Yeah,
Yeah.
great thing. Thanks, James. Yeah, you know, like it's kind of like it's just like a makeup Oscar for like not winning before.
Or like Leo with The Revenant. Like I think Leonardo is
Yes.
great. He's great in The Revenant, but he's like Wolf of Wall Street, The Departed. Like he's had some great like often
This,
Scorsese partnered roles.
this,
Catch
this
Me
is
If You
what
Can. Like
this is a whole other podcast, I think. But like it's the reason why I think like when I was to reference the title of this when I was a film snob, and I think I used to like take the day off on the Monday to see the Academy Awards, and I used to really
Mm,
buy into it, and I used to just think, well, the film that wins, or the actor who wins, or the actress who wins the Academy Award is the best of the year. But I just think it's like, I don't know. I don't really think that Academy speaks for many film fans anymore. Like I can't remember. I honestly can't remember the last time the film that won was like a film I even enjoyed. Maybe that's not the right thing to say, but like, you speak to like the average movie fan, and
yeah,
I don't know if many people go back and rewatch like The Artist or um, uh,
Moonlight.
yeah, exactly, those kind of films, and it's like they're just a bit up their own ass. I think
Yeah, like I'm trying to think. I think did Parasite win Best Picture?
it did, and Parasite's a sick film. So
That's a rewatchable flick. I've watched that a few times.
mm,
Like The Departed. I haven't watched the Oscars in full. I think since pre-pandemic. Maybe the year Parasite won. Maybe I watched the whole thing because it was during lockdown and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of fell out of love with it, and was kind of around the same time that the idea for this podcast started, and the idea of me like kind of changing my attitude towards film. Because I was really buying into it, and then I was like, yeah, it's really like the Academy Awards is quite pretentious and snobby, and like that's fine. Like I don't mind it. I love that there's a whole night dedicated to the craft, but it is, yeah, like you'll see these films, and like they're all wonderful films. Like I think back to what's the Casey Affleck film, the really depressing one.
Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, like great flick, but I never need to see that movie again. Like,
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
but yeah, I don't know. I just think like what I would say is like I'm not like petitioning for like the Oscars to change or anything
Mm,
like that. The Academy Awards to change, but I would just say that they don't really speak for me anymore.
mm.
So I don't put that much stock really in them.
Well, I liked that the Golden Globes have introduced this category where it's like based on box office, which is basically like a popular vote, where they took the top 10 highest grossing films of the year and then like as a popularity vote, which I'm like, hey, that that represents the audience of most movies. Like that is what everyone went to see. So that's not a bad idea. Um, and that's why I like doing this, where it's just like, hey, let's talk about our top 10 favorites. Like, they're not going to get any, any
Yeah,
accolades from the world of Hollywood, but we can at least give them their due for being like, hey, you made a good movie.
yeah.
Um, should
But
we?
like
Oh, sorry, go on.
was well, I guess one more point to finish that off.
Go for it,
Like,
of course.
I don't want to. I'd be happy to be proven wrong here because I'm not like on the Googs at the moment. But like I'm assuming that Avengers Endgame didn't get nominated for Best Picture. I
No, I
could be
didn't.
wrong there, but I just don't think it did. But like you're telling me that the achievement of combining 10 years, or so maybe even more, 10 years, 20 odd films into a really really satisfying and well executed conclusion doesn't put that film in the top like 8 films of the year. Like I don't know, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like it's
It became the number one highest grossing film of history. Like it was like 2 point something billion dollars, which is insane.
yeah,
But even more, I think we talked about. I'm sure I talked about this on the podcast before. If not this one, definitely our old podcast. You're telling me after like 11 years, Robert Downey Jr. doesn't even get a nomination?
yeah,
Like, like that is a performance. And like some people might be like, "Oh, that's very Robert Downey Jr." But it's like, yeah, but you never watched like when Iron Man first came out. I had heard of Robert Downey Jr., but I didn't know a lot about him. For most people watching those films, like that is Iron Man, that is Tony
mhm,
Stark, like that is, and like that is a performance. Like that's a like it's weird that he got nominated for playing a character in blackface in Tropic Thunder, but not for playing Iron Man.
yeah,
Or that Johnny Depp would get nominated for Jack Sparrow, which by the way I agree with. Jack Sparrow like in that first Pirates film was so different to anything we've seen. But
mm,
like yeah, it is weird. Like they got visual effects nominations, of course, but there are some pretty wonderful performances in there. Like if you can nominate Andy Serkis for Gollum, I think you can nominate Josh Brolin for Thanos. Like
mm,
especially in Infinity War, like that's such a menacing performance. Like, um, and I'm not saying they should win. And if people are like, oh no, those are just comic movies, like okay, fine. But like at the end of it, in 100 years of it, is it anything going to really matter anyway? Like, why not just recognize the people doing a good job?
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
know. And it's just like, you know what? Like, when was the last time I look on those historic Academy Award results, and like you get like people winning in the 70s and 80s for like just like a comedy or something like that. And it's like,
Mm.
do we have to be so serious? Like every year, the one that wins is like what tackles the most prescient social theme or like tackles the most serious thing. And you're just like, I don't know, just give it to like something that makes people give it to Paul Giamatti because he's in like a Christmas movie, you know, like
Yeah. Well, look, I remember like my big thing a few years ago was like, you're telling me neither Hugh Jackman nor Patrick Stewart for Logan?
Mm,
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that is a Clint Eastwood film on steroids. Like, that is a
yeah,
Western from the 70s. Like, it's everything that like the Academy loves, but because he can heal, you know,
yeah,
because the
yeah,
girl's got magic claws. Nah, let's not take that one too seriously. Let's look over that one. That one I think was the biggest insult. Was just like, come on, man! Like you got two actors at at the top of their game, like telling a real story. Like it's not
mm,
like it's not like they didn't nominate like X-Men 2. Like Logan is like it's gritty and it's grounded and dark and like has emotional storytelling and like is well shot. Like for a film that is so violent and gory, like it's beautiful to look at. And that
mm.
little girl, Daphne Keenan or whatever her name is, who played like Laura, like she's like 7 years old, and look at that performance she gave. Like it's insane. Um, but anyway, I agree with you. Um, that's why they put the MTV Movie Awards, right? So that
Yeah.
so Fast and the Furious can win a few awards.
Well, what are out? What's the end of year? The snobbies.
I need to come up with something, don't I? Yeah. Well, we already did our film snob like competition. That was our last episode of the year, which was people competed for the title of film snob of the year. Um, so I have to think of something else. But yeah, should we jump into our lists, my good young man? I know that we've been talking for a little bit. Do you want to jump into it?
Let's do it.
So what we're going to do is our top 10. Now I imagine if you had as hard a time as I did, and it sounds like you did, we've probably both got quite a few honorable mentions. Um, But I guess we should start with number 10. I'll let you go first because you are the guest.
Okay. Well, at number 10 was a film called A Haunting in Venice, which is a Poirot story,
I
directed by. Oh, sorry. Were you going to say something?
I was about to say I didn't see this one. I haven't seen any of the new slate of Poirot's. So
Oh, okay. Yeah. So directed by Kenneth Branagh, starring Kenneth Branagh as Poirot. This one also had Tina Fey, Kelly Riley, Michelle Yeoh, among others. Quite a nice ensemble cast. And it follows
nice.
Poirot as he tries to solve a murder that takes place during a séance. It's a really fun whodunit set in Venice. Great cast. And I think what I really enjoyed about this was, and maybe another theme for the year was films that weren't trying to do too much. It was
Mm,
nice and self-contained. It takes place in one sort of haunted mansion in Venice, and it just relies on a really great cast and a couple of like jump scares, which are really fun. And yeah, just a really nice whodunit. So I'd say probably the weakest in the three of the Kenneth Branagh Poirot's. Definitely,
he did Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile. Is that right?
yes, yep, yep.
Was Gal
So
Gadot one of those?
she was in Death on the Nile, yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
which was probably that would be my pick of the three.
Okay.
And this is certainly a lot smaller than Death on the Nile. That's quite Death on the Nile. Sorry, that's quite big in scope. You know, a few different locations and wide open vistas, whereas this one's, yeah, it feels a bit more claustrophobic, which is probably by design.
Nice.
But yeah, I had a really great time watching it, and yeah, would definitely recommend.
Nice. I got to check them out. I haven't seen any of them. But they look fun, and I've never read any Agatha Christie or seen any of the movies based on her work, but I get the feeling that like these films are kind of what Ryan Johnson's trying to do with the Knives Out stuff. I feel like he's trying to replicate that, and
Mm.
if they're anything like those two flicks, then I imagine I'm in for a good time. Because even Glass Onion, I thought was really, really well done. Like to follow up Knives Out with that, to do it, to make it as entertaining as it was, I think was a real feat. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, and Poirot is just a sort of an updated take on a Sherlock Holmes
mm,
character. It's like someone who's very observant, can pick out fine details, and just has a few quirks. Like
yeah,
doesn't eat eggs that aren't the same size, kind of thing.
yeah. Nice one. I like Kenneth Branagh. Like I like that he's one of those actors who kind of shifted into the directing spotlight quite early and just made the double duty work very well. Like he could just take a few years off, be in a few movies, and then go back behind the camera, which is very cool. Um, Excellent. Well, my number 10 is a cheat. It's the only cheat I've done for the entire list. I did a cheat last year as well. I'm cheating again. Number 10, I'm whacking in the entire DC slate. I think DC had a great year. Um, I couldn't pick one of the bunch. I mean, like, if I had to pick one, it would probably be The Flash. Like, The Flash, that movie felt like it was designed for me. Like, my three favorite DC characters of all time are The Flash, Batman, and Supergirl. So there was no way that movie wasn't going to resonate with me. Um, but each one, like, I'll be honest, the only trailer I enjoyed of the four was Flash. I wasn't impressed by any of the other trailers, and each film delivered for me. Shazam! Fury of the Gods was so much fun. Like, DC's got this reputation of either being too dark or being too light, and I think they managed to walk the line the best this year. They managed to make these really great family-driven stories, which I think is something they've been lacking. I think like one thing that's been missing from a lot of the DC storytelling has been heart. Like the idea of
Mm.
like that's what Marvel does really well. Is it's this kind of like strong personal journey, good relationships, great character development, and then big explosions, superhero shenanigans, around the outside. Because I was saying this to someone the other day, I think it was to David. Like when it comes to superhero movies, like this might sound silly, but the superheroic stuff is kind of the stuff I find the least interesting. Like I'm always interested in what they do differently. Like every time Iron Man shows up, he's got a different suit of armor that does different things. I'm keen for that. But like ultimately, Spider-Man's going to swing from a web. He's going to wrap someone from a web. He's probably going to end up having to rely on his humanity to save the day. Like there's
Mm.
a formula for all these movies, which is fine. Like that's what I go in for them for, is that familiarity. I'm like, I know I'm going in for a nice warm bath. I'm going to have like a lovely little snack of a meal, something that I'm very comfortable and familiar with. So it doesn't matter what the superheroics are. Like they're the least important thing, unless you get to something like
Mm.
Endgame, where it's like the portal scene. Where holy Christ, I never thought I'd see anything
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
But
I
like
know.
sorry, go on.
No, no, I was going to say, like, I can speak. I'll speak more generally. I really agree with what you're saying. As I sort of mentioned in our preamble, like, I didn't really catch any of the DC stuff this year, but you're so right. Like, I think as particularly as being, the millennials we are, we like, you know, it's now been 22 years or so since that first Spider-Man film came out, and like I've seen enough like light beams shooting into the sky as the
Mm,
finale to a
yeah,
superhero movie. But like what's interesting to me and what I think is keeps you coming back is this the amazing stories about like what having these powers and responsibilities does to a person and how that
mm,
impacts their relationships. And so a lot of them have to keep that secret, or does it so they have to choose responsibility over like happiness. Those are the kind of themes that I think keep people coming back and make those stories interesting, rather than yet another CGI battle with a monster.
yeah, exactly. So like, look, I'll be honest. With the exception of Aquaman, I felt the villains weren't the strongest for DC, but that's okay. Like, again, I was really looking for just like some really good character storytelling. So I'll go through them quickly because we've got a lot of movies to get through. Shazam really builds on the first one. Like the first one is all about, obviously Billy Batson kind of getting these powers and reckoning what it means to be a superhero. And at the end of the first film, he gives all of his like foster siblings the powers. So this movie is very much a team film. It's about like them learning what it means to be a team, but also their children. So they have to learn teamwork while also dealing with hormones and dealing with like the kind of social hierarchy within their household and stuff like that. Um, and like it's follows on with the story about Billy trying to kind of reckon with the idea of like not having a place because his mum abandoned him when he was a child, and now he's got this foster mum, but he doesn't know what like he feels weird calling her mum because she's not really his mum. But what does that really mean Like at the end of the day, like does your last name define who you are, or is it who loves you defines you? Like Flick it had me in tears, like at the end. Like, and I knew it was
Mm.
coming because they set up really early, like spoiler alert for a year-old film. Very early on, he refuses to call her mum, and she keeps saying like, "You can call me mum," and he's like, "No, no, no." And I'm like, "There's gonna be a moment towards the final battle where he calls her mum, and like it's gonna destroy me. I know it." And it happened, and I knew it was gonna happen, but it was like perfect. Um, the Flash, I think, was the strongest. I know it got a lot of criticism for the CGI. Um, there's some weird choices with the CGI, but I thought Ezra Miller did a fantastic job. Again, personal problems aside, I know that Ezra's been in some trouble over the last couple of years, but just like with Amber Heard, I would say that for most people who go through a mental breakdown, they're doing it privately. Most people aren't having their mental breakdown, displayed on every camera phone all around the world. But by all accounts, it sounds like Ezra's doing better, has got some help, and is working to, kind of, I guess, be a better person and take care of their health. So, but that aside, I thought their performance was fantastic, especially as young Barry. So in the film, he goes back in time and meets 18-year-old version of himself, and 18-year-old Barry is great. Like, I love that performance. Pardon me. Really good to see Michael Keaton back on screen. After seeing him as the Vulture, like I got really excited to see him play Batman again. And what was really nice is that 30 years on, almost 40 years on, we now have the technology that allows Michael Keaton's Batman to move like Batman should. So even though he's in his 60s or 70s, he's moving like Affleck and BVS in certain scenes.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what we wanted to see with the 89 Bat. We now have the technology to do it, which was really cool. But the standout of that flick for me was Sasha Calais as Supergirl. Like, never heard of this actress before until she was announced as the character, and just brought a really cool darkness to the character, but also like just this fresh kind of youthful energy. Um, really dug her performance. Also, having Michael Shannon back as Zod was a great choice. Have you seen Flash?
No.
So they tied into Man of Steel, where like Barry's talking about his origins or like his first kind of experiences being the Flash, and he was in Metropolis the day Zod attacked as well. So like they're tying it in retroactively. I'm like, you know what? It's fan service, and I'm here for it.
Mm.
Next up is Blue Beetle. This one really went under the radar. A lot of people this was the second half of the year. They stopped promoting all their movies. Everyone was saying it looked like an Iron Man ripoff. Now I'm somewhat familiar with Blue Beetle. He's probably the least known character of the slate for me, but I knew a little bit about him. I know he's not an Iron Man ripoff. He's actually closer to Venom, because his suit comes from like a parasitic bug that is symbiotic. Um, but this film played like, if you want to make a comparison to like the Marvel stuff, it played a lot closer to Miss Marvel. Like the idea of this kid who comes from a family who's in a minority, comes from the poorer part of town. He gets accidentally thrust into this world of superheroics and is trying to reconcile like saving the day while also like honoring his family. I should point out, Flash made me cry and Blue Beetle made me cry as well. Um, it's really fun. Like, again, the superheroics are fine. The villain is kind of generic, but just like him and like his core characters, Mario Lopez is in this film. I've never watched anything with Mario Lopez in. Not Mario Lopez, George Lopez. Sorry, never seen anything with George Lopez in. He was great. I loved him. He played like this cynical, like super skeptic, like paranoid, afraid of white people uncle. Like, he doesn't trust Batman. He thinks he's a fascist and all this sort of stuff. But it's really fun. And then Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, I really dug. Like, Black Manta really had a chance to shine. We got to see him be a really good villain. Like, in that first movie, you were talking before about how it's this huge event picture. I think when we talked about it originally, it was just kind of like, that movie is 2.5 hours long because they don't think there's ever going to be another Aquaman film. Like, let's just put everything in there. And that was my biggest problem with the original one, was the pacing. It's 2.5 hours long. There's like 3 different villains. It's quite crowded, even though it's very enjoyable. This one, lean runtime, 2 hours long, one villain, just Black Manta. Actually, 2 villains technically, but I won't spoil it because it's still in theaters. It has a real Lord of the Rings dynamic to it, which I really liked. There's like the Lost Kingdom from the title was kind of like this one that was cursed by magic, and like their whole like realm and kingdom looks like Kirith Ungol from Lord of the Rings. Like,
Oh,
even
cool.
like all their character designs look like ring wraiths and orcs and stuff like that. So I really dug that. And the color palette for all the villain stuff is black and green, which is straight out of Tolkien. So I loved all that. But the best part of the film is um, Aquaman and his brother's chemistry. Like Patrick Wilson is doing so much wonderful stuff in this movie. He's really fun, and kind of gets to play a bit of an anti-hero character by teaming up with his brother. So number 10 is the entire DC slate. I really think they got an unfair bashing in 2023. Like people were writing off the DC films because the universe is closing. But I watched every single one of those flicks and had a ball. Like they were perfect popcorn entertainment for me. Like they're not going to win any awards. They're not going to, stand up against some of the earlier DC stuff or even, some of the Marvel stuff. But for me, sitting in the movie theater with a bucket of popcorn in one hand, like that's exactly what I needed. I had a great time with all of them.
Oh, nice one, mate. I'll allow that technicality. That's a great one.
It's my show, so.
Yeah, but we agreed that when I'm on, my rules supersede yours.
That's true. I forgot about that agreement. Anyway, so that was a very long explanation for number 10. What's your number 9?
My number 9 was the biggest film of the year, I believe. It was Barbie, directed by the great Greta Gerwig. And this one's on there as well as a nod to my lovely girlfriend Alicia. It was probably her favorite film that she saw of the year. And we just had a great time watching it. I told you all about the projector I bought, and it was the first film we watched on the projector.
Nice.
So obviously starring the great Margot Robbie from Australia, Ryan Gosling as Ken. And what I really liked about this was like it really showed like, if you build it, they will come. And like what I mean by that is like I think that like make things for girls, for women that's like actually related to their interests. And I kind of say that with like what I think let down like maybe the actresses in like the Marvels. Wait, was it called the Marvels?
Yeah.
The Marvels is like, I don't know, it kind of feels like I don't know if the answer to sort of like, equity in like Hollywood is like crowbarring kind of women into like, I don't know, typically masculine movies and roles and things like that. And I just sort of thought, it's great that there was like something that was like specifically made for girls and for I guess women of all ages because Barbie's been around so long, and I think people voted with their feet. It was the biggest film of the year, so more power to them, and I hope there's more stuff like that. But I will say I'm slightly scared of the Mattel universe that this might launch.
Well, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago because they're doing like all these Mattel movies. I'm like, how do you cross Barbie over with any other toy movie? Like, it's such a political piece. Like, and not in a. I'm not criticizing it. Like, I think the only way to make a Barbie movie was to make the movie they made. Like, I think any other approach, like, it had to be that director. It had to be Margot Robbie. I think any other way, like, it becomes a parody of itself, or it becomes, like, it doesn't send the message you want to send with it. So, but I don't know how, like, I know they're not Mattel, but I don't know how you cross over Transformers with Barbie. Like, how do you do that? Like, or
I don't know, but I'd love to see them try it. But yeah, no, it was really funny. Greta Gerwig's so great, and I love the visuals. Like, I'd be happy to live in Barbie land myself, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, I thought that like probably the aspect I liked least was probably I thought maybe it was a little too wink and meta, with the whole referencing Mattel and in the movie, which was Will Ferrell's character and stuff like that, is it was maybe a little cynical, but I guess that's the landscape we're in now. Like, we're a very cynical generation. You can't really not wink at how things are in the world with like IP and like that kind of thing. Otherwise, people will just accuse you of being blind to it. So yeah, that was probably one aspect I didn't love, but yeah, really enjoyable film, and hopefully a sign that we're moving away from. Yeah, as I said, like I just thought it was a bit of an injustice to have like an all-female led superhero film and have that be like the gold standard in, for like women in movies kind of thing.
Mm. I think the problem with, 'cause I really enjoyed the Marvels. I went and saw it by myself, and I had a really good time with it. I think the biggest problem with the Marvels is it should have been called Miss Marvel and just really been a vehicle for her, because that actress, Iman Vellani or whatever her name is
Yeah.
incredible. Like, to be that young and to be like holding her own against Samuel L. Jackson and Brie Larson, like she's amazing. Like, it should have been Miss Marvel. But again, like just with DC, I just don't think Marvel were putting any money into the marketing. I just hardly saw any trailers. I hardly saw any posters for it. The trailers I did see, I don't think really sold the movie. I felt like, again, like I was so pumped for the Marvels trailer. Like, that was going into this year. I think the Marvels was the movie I was looking forward to most out of from Marvel. Like, I wanted to see Ant-Man, I wanted to see Guardians, but I had an idea what to expect for that. The Marvels I was really pumped for because I loved Miss Marvel, and the trailers just didn't do anything for me. I was just like, "What are you guys doing? Like, what happened? What happened to the machine?" But to your point about Barbie, I think the biggest problem, or like at least not with the film. I really like the film as well. It's not in my top 10, but I do really like it. The problem with Hollywood right now is they're still afraid of COVID, and so
Mm,
their thing is like, we're not going to invest anything that isn't, for the most part, isn't IP, isn't like
mm,
big franchises, because that's what's getting bums in seats. Like, if we make Spider-Man No Way Home, people will risk going to the movies to go see three Spider-Man, because that was a terribly kept secret. So we're going to do that. Like, it's like Top Gun Maverick. Like, he kept pushing it back and back, and in my mind I was like, who cares? And then like the world cared, and then I sort of like, oh yeah, I guess I care as well. And the idea is like, let's, if they, Hollywood is like, we're not going to invest in comedies. Like, how many comedies came out in theaters last year that you can think of? I can think of two: No Hard Feelings and Anyone But You. I can't think of any
mm,
other comedies. I'm sure there were, but there weren't that many. And they're not making these smaller budget films the way they did in the 2000s. Like, think about how many like rom-coms came out every other week in the 2000s.
mm,
Like, Kate Hudson had a movie like three times a year. Like, she was rolling in like that rom com money. Sandra Bullock, get out of here. Like, it was crazy. But now it's
mm,
just like, it must be large franchise, otherwise people might not come and we'll lose money.
mm.
Um,
Well, to that point is like, whose career we lose. Like we don't have like it's a really good point you make, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about this because I'm a nerd. Like
yeah,
in 2020s, you don't get Nicolas Cage. Like think about like
we
The
got Nicolas
Rock.
Cage last year.
No, 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 no. I don't mean that we're not getting a movie by Nicolas Cage, but like think about like an actor like it's from
Mm,
in the 90s. Nicolas Cage, like Con Air, The Rock, Face Off,
eight
um,
millimeter.
8 millimeter, whatever that one where he was an angel. I don't know what that's called.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I know what you're talking. I can't remember either, but I know
you
what you
know,
mean.
or like leaving Las Vegas, like you don't get you don't get that many chances to make non-IP just like adult dramas.
Yeah,
And it's sad. It really is sad.
yeah. No, I agree with you. But I feel like, and also I think the other thing is like, Hollywood was heavily marred by the strikes,
Mm,
like, and like, not that, like, I mean, the strikes were really important, and we haven't really talked about the strikes on the show, except for when Tyler came on early last year. Tyler, but my actor, writer, director friend, and he was he's like been working on this film like for the last couple of years. He's like, I can't do anything. He goes, and like, it's all right for the Nick Cages and stuff like that. I'm just using him as an example because you mentioned him. Like, they can they can strike and be unaffected, but like, I'm just trying to get started. I don't
mm,
have like, I haven't made a $10 million film. I haven't had Avengers money come through. So like, me striking is money that's not on my in my pocket. It's like rent that's
mm,
not being paid, meals that aren't being bought, and that's, I think, what people miss the point of. Like, you hear people be like, why do they need money? It's like, not Sandra Bullock isn't striking for Sandra Bullock. She's striking for the next Sandra Bullock,
mm,
like the next generation of film, actors and filmmakers and stuff like that. So yeah, like, I remember, like, I was talking about it at work the other day. Someone was like, "Have you noticed that Netflix has nothing new coming up this month?" I was like, "Yeah, Netflix wasn't allowed to do anything for 8 months or something like that. Like,
yeah.
that's why." Um, but yeah, I think Barbie's a good pick. I really enjoyed Barbie. My experience was marred by the fact that the woman next to us was on her phone the whole time. But
Yeah. Rude.
and like, made an outbound call. Like, the phone didn't ring.
God.
I was like, if you don't want to watch it, just leave. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
No one will judge you for walking out of Barbie. It's okay. You're safe. But yeah, um, strong start. My number 9, I think, is going to surprise some people. Not that it's on my list, but it's so low on my list. Um, it's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I really wanted to like this movie more than I did, and what I mean by
I
that is,
I did think it would make an appearance higher in your list, so I'm really interested to hear this.
I really liked it. Visually, I thought it was stunning, but the thing that I think that, like, and again, there's another part coming out later this year, Beyond the Spider-Verse, which concludes it because it's a two-part movie. Into the Spider-Verse was self-contained, and to me, Into the Spider-Verse is perfect. I think it's just a perfect Spider-Man film. I still think it's the best Spider-Man movie of all time. Um, I just think it's so well done. Across the Spider-Verse was impressive on every level, but one thing I think they sacrificed, in lieu of visuals and spectacle, was that heart that I was talking about, like that center, like that gooey center, like that emotional core. Like, it was so focused on, like, we've got 400 different art styles and there's 4,000 Spider-Man in here, and we're going to every different location possible, and there's going to be Donald Glover cameos. Spoiler for like a 7-month-old movie, but like, but what was so brilliant about the first one was the whole story of, like, anyone can put on the mask, anyone can be Spider-Man, and like the guilt and the weight of the responsibility of being Spider-Man and not thinking you're good enough, and the idea of having to take a leap of faith. Like, you don't know if you're going to be good enough. You just have to believe in yourself, and hopefully that'll be enough. Like, and like every Spider-Man or every Spider person in that film had a flaw. Like, Peter B. Parker couldn't, became scared of his own relationships, so he let May go. And Penny Parker's father died, so she put his conscience in a robot. And Gwen's, she couldn't save her best friend. Like, all these things. And in this one, like, visually, like, it was amazing. But I just wanted more heart. I wanted to cry. Like, that was the thing. I
Mm.
was like, it's Spider-Man, I'm gonna cry. And I didn't. I was really disappointed. And then I put it into the Spider-Verse with Zoe like 3 days later. And like 2 seconds in, I was crying. I'm like, that's what I was missing from Across. So look, it's a very well made film. I feel like the next part is going to really deliver what was lacking in the emotional core of this one, because it is a two-parter. I just wanted more character stuff. I wanted more emotional stuff. Like, they kind of touched on it with Gwen. We get a lot more of Gwen in this, which I really liked. But we also lost our core heroes. Like, in the first one, we got introduced to Spider-Man Noir. We got Penny Parker, and we got Spider Ham. They show up in a very brief cameo at the end of the first this film. Spoilers again. They're not in it. I'm like, but we spent so much time getting to know them. Why aren't they in this movie? So yes, I do like it. Like, it's on my top 10 for a reason. I really, really like it. I just wanted a little bit more. I felt like for a Spider-Man film, didn't quite have as much heart as I would have hoped for.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Like, this will absolutely like chap your ass, mate. I have not seen the first one either. So
Oh, really? Oh, the first one's
yeah.
great. Like, it's on Disney Plus now. Like, it's I don't want to oversell it, but for me, like, I think the year it came out, it was my favorite film of the year. Like, it 20. No, it came out the same year as Infinity War, I think, and I think Infinity War. I can't remember what I liked more. I think maybe I actually put Spider Verse as my top film of 2018. Um,
2018.
yeah, so it came out the same year as Infinity War. Like, they're neck and neck. They're both so good. But yeah, Into Spider Verse, definitely worth checking out. Like, I'd highly recommend it. And it's not too long; it's about 2 hours, maybe just two and a bit.
Mm.
But it's really fun. Like, and it's like, it is self-referential. It makes fun of itself, but it's also like, yeah, it's got a really good, like, story to it. And I think, like, I know you've mentioned in the past. I can cut this if you want me to, but I know you've mentioned that your girlfriend isn't huge on superhero films because they can be quite violent. There is some violence in it, but it's very, like, kid friendly and, like, audience friendly. Like, it doesn't go, like, there's a lot of fun to be had with it. So
Yeah, I think like a cartoony, stylized violence. I don't think Elisa would mind, but yeah, she doesn't love the action scenes and that kind of
mm,
stuff. So
mm. Um, but yeah, Across the Spider Verse, really great. I loved it. It just, of the animated flicks I did see this year, is probably the one I was most hyped for, and I probably, like, set my own expectations a bit too high. But like, there's a whole scene where they go to this place called, I think it's called Mumbattan, which is kind of like a hybrid of Mumbai and Manhattan, and we get Indian Spider-Man played by Karan Soni of Deadpool fame and other things as well. And it's the best sequence in the whole flick. Daniel Kaluuya plays Punk Spider-Man, so Spider Punk from the UK. There's some great new characters in there. Andy Samberg from Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Saturday Night Live is Ben Reilly, who's the Spider-Man clone from the 90s, and he's really aggressive. Yeah, it's really good. It is really good, but I haven't watched it in a while. Oscar Isaac as Spider-Man 2099, like it's got a killer cast. Really great flick. Just wanted a little bit more to get it on a higher place on the top 10 for me.
All right. Number
Numero
8.
8.
Okay. Mine is a film I actually just saw this past week, and it really, really one of those films I just thought about a lot afterwards. It didn't leave me straight away, and anyway, it's called Society of the Snow, and
Society
it
does not. I haven't heard of this.
currently playing currently on Netflix. I think it's a Netflix original actually. It's a Spanish language film. Actually, I think it's Uruguayan, and it basically it's it's an update of Alive. So it tells the story of the Uruguayan rugby team that crashed. Their plane crashed into the Andes in 1971.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I toyed with like, do I put this on here, because it's not, I don't know if I'd be like wholeheartedly recommending this film for everyone, because it's a pretty harrowing depiction of um, isolation. They're stranded there for God, it's like ends up being close to 2 months. It's they're freezing to death. Starvation. I won't go into the details, but it's pretty sort of well known how they sort of survived. And I just thought all of the it was again an ensemble cast. There's quite a big amount of people in it, but everyone was really really believable, and it just really made me feel like you could feel exactly what they would have been feeling, and then like the exhilaration of when they're rescued. Like it literally had me in tears. So
Yeah.
yeah, I watch with caution because it's not a pleasant movie, but I thought it was really well executed, and you know I also am a sucker for like being kind of the reason I watch horror sometimes is like I'm just I was truly terrified when they were
Mm.
like with the filming of the plane crash. Like it really was like well done, and I'll be remembering that for a long time. So yeah,
Sure.
um, worth a
Um,
watch if you're game, I would say.
I'll give almost anything a go. There's very few things I won't give a try, even if it could be a bit gnarly. I'll always, check it out if it's worth it. So that's another good recommendation. I haven't even heard of it, but it's on my list now to check out. Nice one. My number 8. We're going to enter the world of horror, and I want to. Yeah, I said before that we'll see some things that have been underrepresented. Animation was the first one. I haven't put animation in my list a lot previously, but I've got 3 entries from animation this year. Um, and horror doesn't get a lot of shout outs. I think last year I had 1 or 2 horror movies, but this year I got a couple as well. And the first one on my list is Saw X. Number 8 is Saw X. 10th movie in a franchise. We should be out of steam here. Many would argue the franchise did run out of steam probably about 6 movies ago, maybe even more. It started off as a franchise where it was like this cool, like independent thriller about 2 guys locked in a room. And then by movie 3, it created a whole new subgenre called torture porn, where the most important thing people cared about was the creativity of the kills. And I'm one of them. Like with Saw films, I don't go in for the story. I'm like, just show me how creative you can be. Show me some weird, messed up stuff. And then this flick came along, and they're like, we're setting it between movie 1 and 2. It is a sequel, but it's also a prequel. We're chucking it in there. We're bringing back Tobin Bell, and instead of making him the voice behind the mask, who you only get brief glimpses of, this whole movie's about him. He's the main character. And we're gonna instead of starting with a bunch of traps and scaring you straight away, we're gonna spend time with this character who, if you remember, is diagnosed as a cancer patient, and like it's through his suffering that he decided to kind of like try and get a new lease on life, and then kind of created this kind of twisted, demented game that he did. And this flick, if it isn't one of the most heartfelt horror films you've ever seen, like he's such an empathetic character in this movie. Like you spend so much time with him. I don't think we even see like a trap for the first hour. He has like a dream sequence which is a little bit violent, but really it's about him just like getting the diagnosis, going through the treatment, trying to find ways to get through this disease, and then like and this is in the trailer, it's not a spoiler, but he finds out about this like kind of like treatment in Mexico. It's like it's untested, like it hasn't been FDA approved, but you head down to Mexico and we can cure it for you. Um, and he goes through it and everything's going well. Um, and then like he gets his treatment and like, oh, it's all gone, your cancer's gone, you're cured. And he's relaxing in Mexico. He's like, you know what? I should thank them. I'm gonna go get them like some wine and stuff and come back. And he comes back to the hospital and it's cleared out and turns out it's this whole scam. Like they just like maybe some of the most despicable villains in the whole movie because they're lying to cancer patients, tricking them and taking their money. And but like it's Jigsaw, it's just like, well, I'm gonna get you guys back and punish you. Um, and then unleashes some of the most creative traps we've seen in the Saw film. Like Shawnee Smith is back as Amanda. Um, it's just it shouldn't be as good as it is for a movie with the number 10 in its title. It should be lazy. It should be silly. There should be massive plot holes. It shouldn't work. And instead, it's the opposite of all of those things. I actually think it's one of the best in the it may be the best in the franchise. Like it's so well done. The acting by Tobin Bell is fantastic. I'm so glad this guy's in his 70s or 80s. I'm so glad they were like, look, let's give him the spotlight. He's never had the spotlight in his own franchise. He's always been behind the curtain, and we killed him off too early. So let's put him in the spotlight, and he crushes it. There's one particular trap which is brutal. It's really hard to watch. But aside from that, like they're not too bad. They're not too hard to stomach. But it's just a great horror flick. It's a great Saw movie, and like I think it was the first Saw movie that critics liked at least since the first one. We feel like, you know what, this is actually a really good movie. It was a total surprise for me. I could not believe how much. And like by the time I watched it, everyone was already going on about it. So I was like, "There's no way it's gonna be as good as people saying." It is. The hype is real. Saw X is a brilliant horror film, and that's why it takes the number 8 spot in my top 10.
Excellent choice. Yeah, the Saw franchise is like at times it's maybe a little bit gnarly for my taste, but yeah, you're right. Like about Tobin Bell, like getting his shot at like I think he's owed something because he created one of the most iconic villains, and like
Yeah,
for for anyone who was like of an impressionable age when the first Saw came out, I don't think you'll ever forget him like getting up from the when he was
yeah,
like kind of just playing a dead body for most of the film.
yeah, absolutely. And
So
it's
actually, I had a
go on.
question for you about that. When did they kill him off in the franchise?
He dies at the end of number 3.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he's in most of them. I think the only one he's not in is Spiral, which was was the spin-off with Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson. It was not meant to be Saw 9. It was meant to be a spin-off. But then they just released Saw X, and I was like, we never had Saw 9, so has Spiral just been relegated to Saw 9 now? But yeah, he's in all of them except for that one. Like he's often he's in all the flashbacks, um, for all those flicks. Which yeah, you get to see bits and pieces of him. He's a really great actor. Like it's kind of a shame that it took until this movie for people to really see what he can do. Like
Mm,
I'm sure he's had a whole career, but like it's kind of like how Christoph Waltz, no one knew who he was until Inglourious Basterds. It's like
yeah.
we've had this wonderful talent just sitting in the wings for decades. No one really knows him. Like the only thing I've seen him in aside from Saw is he plays the record store owner in an episode of Seinfeld. Like, oh, and he was the voice of a villain in The Flash actually, which was pretty
Yeah.
cool. But he doesn't. It's like, why hasn't this guy been in more stuff? Why aren't we like, yeah, like we should have been like blessed with so many more of his wonderful performances. But it's great. Yeah, there is one kill that is really gnarly. It's definitely hard to watch. I would actually put it there as maybe one of the top 3 hardest kills to watch in the entire franchise. It's pretty full on.
I mean, I was
But
just reading the Wikipedia about it. Is it the one that has to do with bone marrow?
that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's really tough. The other ones aren't too bad. Like if you've watched the Saw movies, you can handle most of them. But that one was really like for me. I was like, I just need to get through this. And I didn't like close my eyes or turn away, but I did wince most of the time. It's pretty full on. But yeah, it's a great flick. Like again, I could not believe how good it was. So Saw X.
Well, let me brighten up the conversation a little bit.
Cheer
My
me
number
up, mate.
7 is Asteroid City,
Oh, I haven't seen Asteroid City.
directed by Wes Anderson. Another one
WA.
of my yeah, that's him. Another one of my favorite filmmakers. And this tells the behind-the-scenes story of a stage production from its earliest developments of writing the script through to um, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain the structure of this because it's like mostly the stage production, and then it kind of cuts in. Kind of, it's basically a stage production in Wes Anderson style. So you'll have these scenes in beautiful Technicolor, and then someone will pop through the stage door into like the black and
Mm.
white signifies to us that it's real life kind of thing. And I'll just read you. This is not inclusive of everyone, but here's some of the cast. So Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, Tilda Swinton, Tom Hanks, Jeffrey Wright, Adrian Brody, Bryan Cranston, Margot Robbie. It's a killer cast, and
Mm.
everyone is great. There's like I've left a lot of people off.
Edward Norton,
Edward Norton, sorry, yes, yep, correct.
Liev Schreiber, Matt Dillon. Like it's Willem Dafoe. Like Willem Dafoe and Jason Schwartzman are like Wes Anderson staples. They're in everything. Adrian Brody, Jeff Goldblum, Tony
Yes,
Revolori. Like it's a huge cast. Um,
um, and it's visually beautiful, as you would expect for Wes Anderson. And I also like it's a real. I have a lot of fun with Wes Anderson films. Like you can pick. I enjoy picking his. Uh, like I think it's such an impressive thing that he's done that in you know he's been able to like create a style that is so unique to him, and so I really enjoy looking at those shots where it's like so symmetrical. He really it's quite painterly the way he will shoot a scene, and it's actually really heartfelt as well. So I won't go into spoilers, but the Jason Schwartzman storyline is like quite touching, and yeah, I think he's just getting better and better with Anderson. I can't wait to see what the future holds for him. I think he's got a really bright future. Um,
this kid WA.
yeah. So yeah,
What's the kid's name in There Will Be Blood? Is it like HW or something?
HW Plainview. Yep.
Yeah, that WA
I'm
Plainview over here.
Daniel Plainview, and this is my son, HW Plainview.
Have you ever
I
seen
think
the
you'll.
Have you ever seen
Sorry.
the sketch with Bill Hader playing Daniel Plainview?
Is that the milkshake one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have.
And Amy Poehler's playing
Yeah.
HW. Yeah. Sorry, went on a tangent there. Just got
No, that's
distracted.
all right. Yeah, not much else I can say. I won't spoil it, but really, really recommend it. Again, it feels really nice and self-contained. It's only a couple of hours, so well worth a watch.
Yeah, nice one. It's one of those flicks that I wanted to see. And I kind of forgot this year until the end, or 2023, until the end of the year that I can go see movies by myself. Because I started to see, I was like, who am I going to see it with? And then like in November, I'm like, oh, I can just go see things by myself. Like, what's wrong with me? I'll just go start seeing movies in the evening. So like, I've gone to the movies like 3 or 4 times this year just by myself, just to get flicks watched.
Yeah,
But yeah, I missed Asteroid City. But yeah, it looks cool. I mean, just from the marketing alone, like just whoever, I don't know if it's the same person every time, but whoever's cutting Wes Anderson's trailers, like they just know what they're doing. They
yeah,
know how to market Wes Anderson. They understand the product completely. So, um, that must bring me to my number 7. And you were right, by the way. Like we're 6 movies deep. No one has doubled up yet.
yeah.
Um,
Pretty impressive.
and my number 10 was 4 movies. So actually, we've done like 7 movies. My number 7 is a film that has been, I guess, gained a lot of popularity over the last month or so. It's been very meme oriented, and has gained a lot of notoriety. And the flick is Saltburn, um, which I didn't know anything about going into it, and I wasn't even like, it wasn't even really on my radar. But like, I saw it was on Prime for free. I was like, oh, I'll check out Saltburn. Why not? Had no idea going into what it was, and boy, is this flick interesting. um, Now there were a couple of I need to like kind of set the record straight early on. People were like, it's there's nothing like it. It's the most original film we've ever seen. I have to give a hard disagree. I think it's the most original film of its kind since Parasite,
Yeah,
since Talented Mr. Ripley. But just because it's not entirely original or unique doesn't mean it's not great. Um, it's directed by Emerald Fennell, who did Promising Young Woman, which is an incredible movie. Um, it's a tough to watch movie,
tough,
but
tough watch.
but really well made. But Saltburn, like this kid, Barry Keoghan, or however he knows his name, not only is he the weirdest kid in Hollywood, but he might be the most talented. Like the guy cannot put in a bad performance to save himself. Like I think he's the most interesting part of Eternals. I really like the movie Eternals, but his performance is fascinating. His take on the Joker in the Batman is really bizarre and different. I liked him in Killing of a Sacred Deer. I mean, when I say I liked him, I was terrified of him, but I liked his performance. Um, I don't remember
He's
much
in
from.
Banshees.
I haven't seen Banshees yet. That's my biggest crime of 2022 is still not seeing that. But he was also in Dunkirk, which I don't remember him from really, but he's in Dunkirk. Kid, yeah, I say kid. I think he's like in his 30s. Yeah, he's in his 30s, but cannot put in a bad performance. The whole supporting cast, like Rosamund Pike, like almost
Oh,
feels like she's in a completely different movie to everyone else if it weren't for Richard E. Grant, who is also in a very different movie. The guy Jacob Elordi, I'd never seen him in anything. I believe he was in The Kissing Booth, like one of those Netflix rom-com movies.
well,
Fantastic performance.
he's from like the
Euphoria,
most Euphoria. Thank you. Yeah.
which I haven't seen, but I hear good things about. Um, that's like Sydney Sweeney. I'd never heard of her. Like I'd heard her name come up, and like everyone's obsessed with her on the internet. I've got no idea who this chick is. I went and saw Anyone But You, and like that film is her just mainly in a bikini the entire time. I was like, oh, now I know. Like, she's a great actress. Like, she's really good in the film, but I'm like, oh, I understand why she's all over the internet. like,
Yeah.
uh, got a, she got a
What's
real she got like a real dusky bombshell vibe to her. Like, I haven't seen much of that lately in our leading ladies. Like,
yeah.
she's got like this kind of deeper voice, like these like really like kind of large, heavy eyelids. It makes me think of like people are going to throttle me for comparing her to Marilyn Monroe, but it actually reminds me a lot of like kind of the femme fatales of the 40s and 50s. I really dig her vibe. Like she's got a cool thing going on.
Mm.
But she's not in
Um,
Saltburn. Um,
yeah. Glenn Powell.
yeah,
What a man.
he's great. Everything I've seen him in, that guy's so funny. Like,
Yeah.
I've just got to let Luna out, my dog, so I'm going to try and reach the door. But I'll keep talking. But yeah, this flick, I had no idea what it was. When it started, I didn't realize we were going to have a complete gear change and have him go to Saltburn Manor or whatever it's called. I just thought it was going to be like a college movie. I had no idea what this flick was. And then when you get there, I was like, oh, this is the movie. It's really bizarre and there's some really weird adult stuff in it. It's really changed my opinions on the song Murder on the Dance Floor by Sophie Ellis-Bextor. Um, if you like monster movies, the last 5 minutes contains a real monster in it. Um, it's it's weird and unusual and confronting, but I just think it's a well-made flick. I just don't think that, like I think it's just every performance is so bizarrely wonderful, you can't not enjoy it for what it is. I think it's a great flick. It's a real triumph.
Yeah, like I've heard the discourse around it, and I've been really intrigued because it sounds like sorry, I forgot the name of the director who you mentioned before, but
Emerald Fennel, I think I said it was.
yes, it
Yeah,
just
I
sounds
had to
like
look it up. Don't worry, I wasn't like I didn't remember.
all of like there is like no restraint. I like it. One of the hearings is just like an absolute kitchen sink movie.
Mm.
Like everything's been thrown at it. People are just like really going for it, and you know what? I'm here for that.
It actually, I'll say this: like Rosamund Pike, who's is so like again, like everyone's so wonderful. Like her and Richard E. Grant. Like I guess like one of the messages of the film is it's kind of like an eat the rich film. The idea of like kind of like the rich have it coming and we need to punish them. But they're not even villains in this film. They're just completely oblivious, and it makes me think of. I want to say the parents from Train Spotting. I don't know if you. I don't know, maybe it's not Train Spotting, but I feel like in Train Spotting, the parents are very oblivious of like just what a wreck their child is, and it kind of goes down that same laneway. It's a really weird flick, and like yeah, but it's wonderful. It's definitely worth a watch.
Very good, mate.
Which brings you to 6, which will put you at the halfway point.
Yep. So I believe I gave a pretty in-depth review of this movie, if not the last time I was on, the time before that. But this was the potentially concluding chapter of the John Wick saga,
Oh
John Wick
yeah,
Chapter 4.
Is it Parabellum? No, that was 3.
Nah, that was 3.
I wrote John
No.
4. Like I'm doing well.
Directed by Chad Stahelski, and obviously starring Keanu as the titular John Wick, with Ian McShane in support, and actually a really great addition in his fourth.
Spoiler alert, because I haven't seen 4. Didn't Ian McShane get shot at the end of 3?
No.
Okay.
No.
Oh no, like he was like, you can't come back. They're going to come for you now.
Yeah.
Which I feel is like how every John Wick film ends. But
and Bill Skarsgård comes into the cast. You'll never guess, but he plays like the arch villain. He's just so good. He is so menacing, and you know what? I love that he's like kind of carved that out for himself. That kind of thing, and he sort of embraces it because I think he just realizes that he's one of those faces that's really menacing.
Yeah, he's great. I like the one thing like I'm sick of, and like if they do it, it's fine. But everyone's like, oh, he should play the Joker, and I was like, because he played a clown in It.
Yeah,
Like that's the connection people make. I'm like, yeah, like he can, but like give him roles like this. Like give him roles that like aren't clowns.
yeah.
Like I just feel like the internet's not very creative sometimes.
But he just plays a great he's like an upper member of that society. I can't remember what they call
The
themselves.
Continental, is that them or?
Yeah. Oh, that's the hotel. I'm not sure, but and you probably refer back to my more in-depth review when I was on here last. But just a really insanely good action film, like all practical stunts, and there's a mind-blowing sequence featuring the Arc de Triomphe and
Oh, cool.
that really famous kind of roundabout that, like, I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise has also done an action scene there in Mission Impossible Fallout, and also just a killer, like a of a bird's eye view of Keanu Reeves like clearing out this like abandoned church of villains. So just insanely good action film. I think that I think it's time to give the franchise a break. I think I don't know where they would go from here. It's just so epic that I don't know where to go. So yeah, absolutely great film. But I hope that they do leave it here certainly for a little while.
Is John Wick? Is it a Universal franchise? I feel like it's from Universal.
That's a really good question.
Because if it is, like, I'm sure there's like another Universal franchise where they can cross over. I'm just thinking, like, do you remember like for years they were like, oh, Kate Beckinsale from Underworld is gonna fight Alice from Resident Evil, like because they were owned by the same studio, and it never came about. But I'm like, is there someone like, is there a character in the Universal kind of archives where you can like let's team them up or put like at the moment all I can think of is Fast and the Furious, which part of me is like, hey, Keanu Reeves and Fast and the Furious, do it. Why not? But
like John Wick in the Fast and the Furious.
Just take like shooting out tires left and right, like he's a crack shot and stuff like that. I watched Fast X. It's not on my top 10, but I'll say this: Jason Momoa playing a villain is a lot of fun. Like he doesn't do it very well, but he's really good in it. And that flick has some of the most ridiculous action scenes I've ever seen in my life. Like I remember, I think I talked about this in the last episode, but the director, when interviewed about Fast and Furious 10, he was like, "Look, the last movie they went to space. We're not going to do that. Like, we don't need to keep escalating. I'm going to make a more grounded film." And I watched Fast X, and I think what he means by more grounded is they stayed on the ground, because that's about as grounded as it gets. It's ridiculous.
Is Fast X I feel like I've seen some clip of like Vin Diesel
with the giant bomb rolling down the streets of Italy.
Yeah, and then what happens? Is he like, I don't know.
They're like, okay, so let's talk about it. I'm sure they would have talked about on how did this get made. I haven't listened to that podcast in a while, but they would talk about all the Fast and Furious films. Yeah. But yeah, there's this giant bomb rolling down the streets, and they're like, Dom, you've got to stop it, otherwise it's going to blow up the Vatican. So that's the premise of this sequence. And he's like driving alongside it, and he's tried everything. He's like, I can't do it. And like, Dom, you have to leave. Like, you've tried everything. And then, of course, there just happens to be like one of those semi-trailers that carries all the cars on. It's like a ramp. Just happens to be one of those. And he's like, I haven't tried everything yet. drives off it, crashes his car into a crane, which causes the head of it to like swivel around and knock the bomb into the river. And I'm like, this is
Yeah, but
like
doesn't his car like bounce off something? Like,
I
I,
think so. I can't
I
remember
don't
now.
think like cars work that way, where you can like hit something and it like ding and bounces off.
Yeah, look, there's some weird. He does drive almost vertically down a dam at the end of the movie, so like, there's some weird stuff in it. By the way, Helen Mirren in these movies, so um,
All right.
uh,
So was that your number six? Was it?
no, wasn't Zing. Um, I'm going horror again. My number six is a little movie called Thanksgiving. As far as horror movies go, I think this was my most anticipated for the year. I love Eli Roth. He's generally made very brutal horror films. His debut movie was Cabin Fever, which is one of the most gory films of all time. And then his follow up to that was the Hostel series. Um, but in 2007, Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez made a movie called Grindhouse, which was an homage to like 1970s exploitation films. And they got all their director friends to make short, fake trailers. And one of the trailers was Thanksgiving by Eli Roth. And I remember watching that trailer. I was like, man, that looks like a cool slasher film. Like, I wish this was a real movie. And it took 16 years, but he did it. Um, and it's like a love letter to 80s slasher films. Like, it's silly, it's cheesy. I think it's the most audience friendly Eli Roth film ever made, except for maybe House with Clock and Swords, which was a kids movie. But like, because it is violent, but it's not gory, it's not tortury. It's teens getting attacked by a guy with a knife in a small town over the holidays. Um, it does have some gross out moments, like there is a whole sequence where a woman does get roasted like a turkey, and that's really full on. Yeah. And then everyone has to sit down at the dinner table, in front of the turkey. Like there's definitely like it's Eli Roth, so it is messed up, but it's a really fun slasher. It's I think something we've been missing for a while. Like we haven't had a lot of fun slashers. Like Scream is still going strong, and I was really on the fence about putting Scream 6 in my top 10 because I really love Scream 6 as well. But I think like in terms of watchability and fun, I think Thanksgiving just has the edge. Plus, it's new. Like even though it's based on a fake trailer, like that he made 16 years ago, it's not existing IP really. It's a brand new idea. It's a new character. They've already announced a sequel, so now we have a potential new franchise with legs and a new character to add to our kind of like alumni of horror villains. So being something new and fresh and being fun and silly, but also delivered on some great jump scares and some good kills. Thanksgiving, number 6 on my list. I loved it. I can't wait to watch it again. I've actually already pre-ordered it, so keen for that one.
Nice one. I like that you're repping horror this year, mate.
That's probably I think that's well, my next one is kind of a horror movie, but that's really the last horror film on my list. Yeah. Number 5.
Number five. Well, this was a film we saw together quite recently. Did a whole podcast about it, in fact. And this, well, I should say it. It's Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. Was
Mm.
the only film I thought was a potential for us to have a crossover. So I won't ask you the question directly because I don't want to spoil your.
I'll say it now. It is not on my list, and
Oh, there you go.
the reason it's not is, and this is because there were 43 movies to choose from, and for my top 10, I'm like, what has the most rewatchability? And Killers, I'm not going to rewatch a lot. Like it's bleak, but it is in my honorable mentions because it's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. So this movie has really just wonderful performances. I guess from the three main stars, I guess you'd say. So Lily Gladstone, who's just phenomenal and probably is on track to win all of the major
I'm
awards.
so glad to see she's getting so much love from the awards. It's great.
Leo and Robert De Niro, really great cameos. I mean, it's a really great ensemble cast, so I won't hit everyone, but Jesse Plemons is great. He comes into the film quite late.
He's
So does
great in
John
that movie.
Lithgow.
Yeah.
So does Brendan Fraser. So we had a pretty in-depth review of this, but this film depicts really just the murder of these Osage Nation Native Americans. So they discover oil, become really really wealthy, and then basically white people move into this area and just Robert De Niro plays this sort of he's like a landowner, quite a wealthy person, and he
He's not.
implements this
He's
plan.
not an oil tycoon. Is it cotton that he has?
Oh, yeah, or like he's some sort of farmer. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's not
He does a
oil
bit
though.
of farming.
He's very clear. It's not oil. Like he's very adamant about that.
Yeah, and he basically implements this plan to have Leonardo DiCaprio marry one of the Osage women, and with a goal of getting their fortune into his family. And it's really harrowing. It's really, um, you know, I mean, Martin Scorsese is a master. You know, he's one of the greatest living filmmakers, and he employs like all of these like tricks here. Like it's you feel the claustrophobia and the walls closing in on Lily Gladstone's character as her family are literally being killed around her, and they're sort of gaslighting her, sort of saying that they don't know what's happening and that kind of thing. So again, a tough watch, but really masterful film, and I think one that like there's a bit of a curve of we saw it. It was a pretty sweaty, claustrophobic viewing, and then we reviewed it, and I think we were both really thought it was like well done and important. But I think since in the few months since we've done that podcast, I really have come to appreciate like what an achievement it is. So
Mm.
yeah,
Oh,
great
100%.
film.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Like I wish I could have done like my top 20, to be honest. Like there's so many great films that aren't on my list, and that's one of them. I just yeah, like I think we in the review we did, we were like, did you enjoy this movie? But I think we were both like, no, but I don't think that's the point. Like, well,
Yeah,
that is the point. Like, you're not supposed to enjoy it. It's more like, hey, you've seen me do entertaining, fun, dark stories, but with a bit of a nod and a wink for the last 40 years. So here's something you're not going to love.
yeah,
Um, yeah, or at least it's going to make you feel very uncomfortable. And look, it did it.
yeah. But like I think it has that classic Scorsese propulsiveness. Like his films, like there's that moment, and it's usually backed. I mean, it's one of the saddest things this that happened this year was we lost Robbie Robertson, who is Scorsese's longtime like music director, whatever. I don't know what the title is, but he basically either scores Scorsese's films or like kind of picks the songs that go in there. And like,
Mm,
there's always a great song and a really propulsive scene. And like when Leo gets to the town and there's like a tracking shot of him kind of seeing what it's all about, you're just like, I don't know. To me, that is like Scorsese, and you're just like from
mm.
that moment, you're just in the film. And yeah, it's really fun to. I don't know. It's fun and it's great to get to experience that because he's getting on a bit, Martin Scorsese. So you don't know how many films he's got left in him, and when he might want to, he might want to retire and um and we won't get any more. So yeah,
I don't think
um,
so. We hopefully got a few more in him. Um, he takes his time though. Like, what was the last Scorsese film before? Oh, it was Irishman, wasn't it?
yeah, it
And that was
was
2019,
yeah 20, yeah, it would have been, and then Silence was a few years before that, and then Wolf of
2016 was
Wall Street.
Silence. Yeah. Oh, so not too long actually between flicks. For some reason, I felt
Yeah.
like it took a long time, but maybe obviously COVID would have impacted that. Okay, we got another one around the corner, surely. It is a great flick. Like if you haven't seen Killers, like definitely as soon as you get a chance to watch it, go and see it. Like it's a feast for the senses. Like I don't think that's an
No,
exaggeration
yeah,
at all. It's just maybe not the most delicious feast you were hoping for, or it's like it's really healthy veggies. Like if you don't like veggies, like it's good for you, but it might not be the chocolate cake you were hoping for.
yeah.
Um, I'm sure Scorsese really appreciates this comparison.
Yeah.
But
Maybe
he
it's
can,
like there's something really, really spicy, but you have to
yeah,
keep
that's
eating it.
there you go, because it is a very cost. Yeah, okay, let's go with that's better. Um,
And Martin, we're around if you need a quote for your next film poster.
Come on, MS, reach out to us. I'm just going to call everyone by their initials. When you said Bill Skarsgård, I was so close to calling him old BS, but I just rocked the other one, WA, earlier. Oh my goodness, I'm just trying to. My computer's being dumb, so let me just stop it from being dumb. My number five, continuing the theme of horror, or I guess it's not as much of a horror film as it is a monster movie. And I'm representing Japan here. We haven't had a lot of international films on my list so far. This is a flick I saw last week. I really wanted to watch it before I did this list because I had a feeling it was going to be a top 10 film. And I was absolutely right. And it is the latest installment from Toho, Godzilla Minus One. We haven't had a Japanese Godzilla film in a couple of years. And this flick is outstanding. It's so incredible. And like, it's funny because while I was in the cinema waiting for it to start, they had a trailer for the new Godzilla Kong film, the American one. And the whole time I was sitting there, I was just like, what are you doing? And I know that like I try not to be negative about these movies, but like I don't think there's been a single American Godzilla film that I've loved. Like I've enjoyed bits and pieces of them, but for the most part, I'm just like, you're focusing on the wrong things. Like it's always like these wonder kids who solve problems, or like really boring human stories. Like the human, like and you need the human element, but the stories are so boring. It's just like quickly the team of scientists needs to find out a way to make Godzilla our friend. It's like no, like there's got to be a better way to do it. And this flick like gets it. First of all, they set it in 1945 post World War II. Great idea. It's a period piece, but also like we always obviously when we think about World War II, we think about obviously the devastation and the horrifying kind of crimes of the Nazis and Germany, but also we think about all like how the Allies were affected and like kind of the trauma that our side felt. But it really puts Japan under this microscope and kind of like, look, most of Japan didn't want to be in a war, and like they copped it worse than anyone. Like Hiroshima was leveled by this bomb, and actually we're going to talk about Hiroshima later, I'm sure, because there's another movie that talked about a big old bomb. Um, but like, sorry for that delivery. That's not the way I meant to describe it. But like kind of devastation and so it's this whole idea of Japan trying to recover, like from the bombing of Hiroshima and the loss of all their people, and then just as they're starting to rebuild, this giant monster comes out of the sea, and they're like, "Oh my god!" Like it just doesn't end for us. Like now we're going through this, and that's the whole idea is that like World War II leveled Japan back to zero, and the introduction of Godzilla actually puts them even further behind. Now that as a nation, they're -1. That's the idea of the title. Um, they do a human story. It's really good. It focuses on this kamikaze pilot who chickened out at the last minute. Like that's the words they use in the movie. Like he pretends he's got like a faulty plane and he's not able to complete his mission. And by doing so, he actually is responsible for the death of a lot of soldiers, and people who aren't even soldiers. They just become like kind of like collateral damage because of his cowardice. So the whole film is him like going on and on about like how his war hasn't ended because he's living with like the guilt and the trauma of being in war. And it follows him and like his kind of quest for redemption. Like he finds this woman in the market and like she's got no family because of the bombing of Hiroshima. She's got this baby. Her parents were lost. Like it's really bleak, this flick. But this baby's parents were lost in Hiroshima. So they become this kind of weird unusual family, and like because of that he realizes like, well, I've got to start making money. Like I've got this woman and child I'm caring for and I don't earn any money, so he gets a job as a minesweeper. So like the whole idea, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but after World War II in Japan, I believe in America as well, they employed people to be minesweepers, which basically meant they went into a boat and like dredged up all the mines left in the ocean so that people could travel safely through the ocean again. And actually, there's a really great joke because he's telling the woman, they're like, "Oh, I've got this job as a minesweeper," and she's like, "You kidding? You can't go in there. You just got back from war. It's such a dangerous job." He goes, "No, no, no. I spoke to them. It's a mine-proof boat. It's going to be fine." And it cuts him at the dock as like the most rickety wooden tugboat you've ever seen. And they're like, "Technically, it is mine-proof because all these mines are magnetic, and we've got a wooden boat." And it's like, it's such like I think it's the only joke in the entire film, but it's so well placed. And then begins this whole sequence, like probably like a 20-30 minute sequence where it's basically Jaws. Like it's just like four guys on a boat telling stories, getting to know each other. And then even Godzilla's like reappearance is just his like spines coming out of the water, like the fin from Jaws. It's such a blatant homage, and I'm here for it. It's great. Um, the story is really emotional. It's really well delivered. The action is great. Like this flick was made, I think, for $20 million, maybe $15 million. The new Godzilla film coming out from America, they've spent like $200 million on. and you're like, how can they justify this much money? Like they've told this is the best Godzilla film I've ever seen. Like it's so well executed, and they did it for a fraction of the cost. And like, yeah, some of the CGI, like you can kind of see like the edges a little bit and doesn't quite work. But for $20 million, like the story is so good, I don't care. Like it's just so well made. Godzilla shows up in the first 5 minutes of the film, and his debut is like, I would put it on par with the debut of the Tyrannosaurus in Jurassic Park. It's just like it's suddenly there, and like it's actually more aggressive because it's just like chomping down on people left and right, like just killing them. It's a sight to be seen. Like if you can get to see it in theaters, I recommend it. It's not showing in a lot of places. I had to go to Glen Waverley, and the only session they had was in gold class, and I didn't care. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but like obviously I'm absorbed in the trailer because I heard such great things, and like it is a sick rendering of Godzilla.
Yeah,
like it's so cool.
Yeah, it's great. Like it's a really good like old school monster movie, and yeah, like I won't talk about like the third act because I think like listeners need to check it out, and I don't want to ruin it for you either. But just yeah, it's so well done. Yeah, good flick. Which brings you to number 4, my man.
Okay, number 4. We're getting through them. We're getting to the pointy end.
We sure are, and still no crossover. Like we've done a really good job.
We have, oh no, we're gonna have a crossover.
Well, there'll be one. There'll be at least one.
Yeah. Well, let me quiz you, mate. You've known me for many years now. Who is the constant in my end of year list?
TC. Tom Cruise.
You are so right. Tom Cruise. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, Part 1. Thank God. Which means we're at least guaranteed one more outing. So this one was directed by Christopher McQuarrie, which I think the last 2 or 3 installments of this franchise have been. And considering it's just going from strength to strength, that's a good thing. So, obviously the ensemble cast is back, led by Tom Cruise, but his crew of Simon Pegg. I'm having a brain blank on
Ving Rhames.
Ving Rhames, thank you. What's her name? Ferguson is back. And Ferguson. Actually, thank you. And Hayley Atwell joins the cast.
Yeah.
To this new installment, and she's a great addition. And thankfully, it seems like she's going to be back for the next one. And I would say this film was probably like just a tiny on the ladder, a rung below Fallout, which is no shame at all because Fallout is probably like one of the top 3 greatest action movies of all time, probably the best Mission Impossible film. So no shame there. But this one,
well, look, if it doesn't have Henry Cavill pumping his guns, like he just
if this was a visual medium, you would have seen me replicate that.
Yeah, I loved it.
I like the idea also that your camera's been off for this whole podcast to conserve your bandwidth. So you're just watching me sit on my bed, talk to you. It's pretty funny.
I've been enjoying it.
And this one really felt like it was actively going after the zeitgeist because spoilers, AI is a massive theme of this one. Sorry, James, you hadn't seen this one, had you?
No, I the last weekend I was like going over the movies that came out last year, and I was like, oh my god, how did I miss Mission Impossible? I haven't seen it, so I ordered it Monday morning, and I was like, it should take 2 days. I should get it by Wednesday. I can watch it Wednesday night, and it didn't arrive till this morning. I was like, I went to work. It arrived while I was in the office. I came home. I'm like, I'm recording in like an hour and a half. I can't watch it. So I won't watch it tonight. I'll wait till probably like Saturday night. I'll wait till the weekend. I'll give it a proper watch. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and all the classic, like obviously I won't spoil the story, but all of the classic Mission Impossible things are here. Like unbelievable stunts. Like it's really funny. Great. Like they hop to really great locations. Like there's an unbelievable car chase in Rome, I think they are. Really, really funny. And I forgot to mention the legendary Pom Klementov who joins the cast in this one as well. And she's so funny. And
she's great. I think she's such an underrated actress. Like the fact she's not getting more, like she should be getting way more roles. She's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a bit unclear whether she'll be in part two, but I really hope she is. And yeah, not much more I can say. I don't want to spoil it,
Is
but like
Vanessa Kirby in this one as well?
she is. Sorry, yep,
Yeah,
she is.
because she was the new addition to Fallout. 'Cause we went and saw Fallout together,
Mm,
and I'm not as big a fan of the franchise as you. I know you love Mission Impossible, and I remember liking six but not loving it. But I think my whole viewpoint on, and control your rage, please. I feel like my whole viewpoint on the franchise is going to change post Top Gun Maverick, because before Top Gun Maverick, I was like, Tom Cruise is fine. I could take him or leave him. I loved him in Collateral, but I think we've talked about this before. Like, he really kind of, for me, always leans more on the side of movie star. Like,
mm,
I've never, like, his performance in Collateral was amazing, but I never kind of was like, oh, I need to go see a Tom Cruise film for the acting, which sounds horrible, and it definitely falls under my snobby side.
mm,
But then I saw Top Gun Maverick, and I was like, this is something. Like, it was an experience for me. I couldn't believe, like, that was a flick I could not have cared less about when they announced it, and it was revolutionary for me when I watched them. I was like, oh my god, like, I get it. It's taken me my entire life, but I now get it. So
mm.
I feel like watching this new one, and even going back to Fallout through this new prism, I think I'm going to find a lot more enjoyment in it because I've been converted thanks to that movie.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And like I will say, like on the flip side of that coin, and like I hope he just keeps making Mission Impossibles like as long as he can. But I kind of wonder if like I do love his movies, and if there was a few kind of like I don't know about failures, but like he's definitely if you look back on that period from like maybe 2005, because like there's so many eras of Tom Cruise. Like,
Yeah,
he was phenomenally successful in the early 2000s when he was doing all those Spielberg collaborations, and then
yeah,
from like 2005 onwards, you have things like Night and Day, um, through that Lions for Lambs or something like that, which I never saw, and American Made. And I really liked American Made. It was really
yeah.
funny, and he
I
was
think it was
great.
a well-made flick. Yeah,
But I kind of feel like maybe he's like learned that what people want to see is is him continue on as like as Maverick, as Ethan Hunt. And like what I think is a shame is like he's not really, I can't remember the last film that wasn't part of a franchise that he was in. And I think that's a shame. I'd love him to just do more of that like random stuff or try something completely different.
like maybe
um
Edge of Tomorrow. Edge of Tomorrow is 2014.
yeah.
That's 10 years ago.
Mm,
And Oblivion was around the same time, I think, which I still haven't seen, but that was a hot recommendation from you.
mm.
Um,
So yeah,
I
that's my
think
little
also,
essay on
like,
Tom Cruise.
I think like in the late 2000s, he became kind of a bit of a, like, and I'm not saying that I felt this way, but I think he became kind of a bit of a joke because the Scientology thing became his identity. Like,
Mm,
everyone, like, they didn't see him as Tom Cruise the guy in movies. They were like Tom Cruise the wacky religion guy, and so he kind of lost maybe a little bit of
yeah,
favor with the audience as well, because they're like, don't preach to us, just like just be the action guy.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, look, as I said, I'm a convert. After Top Gun, he can do no wrong for me. Like, as far as the movies he's making, so I'm very excited to catch up on Dead Reckoning. Um, all right, number four for me. Some people might think this is a bit low, but it was a really competitive year. But I could not do a top 10 list and not talk about Oppenheimer. And I imagine this may be the one crossover we have. I feel like Oppenheimer is going to show up on your list somewhere as well. Um, we did a whole Nolan spectacular last year, you and I, with our good friend Maddie. But and I think I said at the time, like, it just jumped to the top of his filmography for me. Like, it's in the top three alongside Interstellar and Dark Knight. It's so well executed to take a, a topic that, whilst the idea of atomic bombs is not like out of the realm of possibility for Chris Nolan, a biography not about like a biography on like the man behind it, and like being kind of a procedural, being like a slow drama, like a character study. That's not generally what we see from him. So to do that, shoot it like an action film and get the results he did, it's a real magic trick of a film. Like, it just
mm,
like, it probably shouldn't work. Um, but like the casting is great. Like Cillian Murphy, like I think I've always liked him as an actor. I never thought of him as a leading man. Even though he was like the lead in 28 Days Later, I never thought of him as like the kind of like the poster guy for like a big budget film like this. But
Mm.
he just like carries the weight of it. Like he carries the weight of the character, he carries the weight of the story. Like he just does it so effortlessly. And I hope like this kicks down doors for him because he's been in movies for over 20 years, but he's always been a, a sidekick. Like we've actually seen a lot of that this year. Like you're talking about the holdovers before. Like Paul Giamatti's always been like the supporting guy. Like he's a great supporting actor, but like now he's gotten the opportunity to be a lead. And same with Cillian Murphy. He's been like this supporting guy, this character actor for so long, done it wonderfully. And maybe, thanks to things like Peaky Blinders, where he's got the chance to be in the spotlight, he's getting those opportunities. But like
Mm.
he just does a wonderful job. And like he doesn't play the most likable character. Like Robert Oppenheimer, I would say, is not a very likable man. Like he's very unusual and reclusive, and like he's not really driven by emotion. He's driven more by science and procedure. But even still, there's a real you have a real empathy for him and like his struggle. Like first it's his struggle to be the best and his struggle to achieve this impossible creation, but then this struggle of being kind of victimized and made the blame for everything because he's just become the scapegoat. Like it's
Mm.
just this wonderful kind of balance of shades and colors. And
I think it's I think like this movie will come up for me, but we may as well have the discussion now, and I can just sort of note it kind of when it gets to my on my list. But you're so right about like the kind of complexity of that
mm,
performance. Is like you really pick up that this is someone who does want the acclaim. Who like kind of wants to be the one who invented the bomb and who wants the acclaim of like managing that project, but
mm,
is also terrified of what it's going to do and terrified that he's caused that. And it's a
mm.
really interesting, like, yeah, I don't know, like juxtaposition of
Yeah.
to play, but he plays it so well. And like Matt Damon's great in it. Like Florence Pugh is really great in it. Emily
Um,
Blunt
Emily
is
Blunt
great in it.
has, I think, like the best scene in the entire film is Emily Blunt's. Like,
Mm.
her character doesn't get a lot of screen time. It doesn't get a lot to do, but when she does, like, she executes perfectly. Like Robert Downey Jr., Alden Ehrenreich is in this flick, does a great job. Um,
Rami,
Rami Malek, yeah. Olivia Thirlby, Thirlby, I can't remember her name, but like she's one of the scientists in, like she's the only female scientist in there. Is Desmulchin in there? David Desmulchin? I feel like he's in there as well.
yeah,
He was Polka Dot
Krumholtz
Man.
is in there.
Krumholtz, yeah, absolutely. Um, and there's like an obvious one.
And
Oh,
Josh
and
Hartnett.
Josh Hart. Yeah, as I said, Josh Hartnett. Like
Yeah,
maybe my favorite appearance in the film is like, oh my goodness, like welcome back, Josh
yeah,
Hartnett.
yeah,
Teen heartthrob, Josh Hartnett, like playing it real. Um,
yeah. No, incredible achievement, and you know what? Like, probably worth also shouting out Robert Downey Jr., who's just so good
oh,
and so
so good,
menacing.
yeah. And like again, like I guess another thing for this film that's unique compared to his previous filmography is that Nolan is such a visual director. Like everything is very much about like big wide shots and like the grandeur and splendor of what's in front of you. Like Interstellar, it's these wonderful spacescapes and like the cornfields and the planets. Like all the Batman flicks, it's like Gotham City. Like, and in this, like it's not that kind of movie. Like he's playing indoors. He's like most of our shots are going to be like on a fake like housing compound or like in rooms. He doesn't get obviously there's that
Mm.
one big scene with the bomb. That's kind of his chance to be visual.
Trinity
But
test.
yeah, but he really like challenged himself and put himself in a bit of a box here. It was like, hey, it'd be easy for me to do the thing I've always done, but I'm gonna play in a different arena, and it still works so well. The flick's a masterclass, and it's one of his best. And yeah, I just haven't rewatched it because it is very long, but I do look forward to watching it again.
Yeah, and I love that as well. Like exactly what you were saying. Like it is a very different. It's it's quite talky, but
Mm.
I do also love that that he's like, oh yeah, don't forget who I am. And then we have
Yeah.
that scene with the Trinity test, and it's like, I think a lot of people, there's a lot of directors who would have done a really good job of that, but like Nolan's like at the absolute top of like making that so memorable.
Yeah, and like I know that everyone's got different feelings on the film and like what their favorite moment is. I think like the Trinity test is the moment that everyone's waiting for. That's the bit we're building up to. And like it would be so easy to be like, that's my mic drop, and now we're wrapping things up. But instead, the movie just gets more interesting after the bomb for me.
Mm.
Like the bomb is at the big moment. You're like, well, what's going to happen next? And the last hour is fascinating. Like it's actually my favorite part of the film is the last hour. It's the wrapping up of everything. Like, yeah, um, yeah, I loved it. I think it's great.
Excellent. So that was your number
That was number 4 for me. So tell me
4.
about numero tres. Um,
As we get closer to number 2,
oh, I know. I just had to do a number joke before we got there.
My number 3 was Maestro.
Oh, I haven't seen Maestro yet.
It's streaming on Netflix. It's a Netflix original.
Oh, okay, cool.
Directed by Bradley Cooper, starring Bradley Cooper as he often does, and with Carey Mulligan as well. And this is Bradley Cooper's Leonard Bernstein biopic. So I didn't know anything about Leonard Bernstein. So he was an American conductor and composer who died in 1990. And it basically follows Leonard at different points in his life, from a young man when he the first scene is him getting a call. He's the assistant conductor for, I think, New York Philharmonic Orchestra or something like that. And the conductor is away or is unwell. So he gets this last minute call up, and does such a great job that it sort of catapults him into the mainstream of, as much as one is, of the classical world. And then the film sort of hops to different parts of his life. And it basically tells the story of his sort of complicated relationship with his wife, who's played by Carey Mulligan, and she's phenomenal as well. She would be another leading candidate for some awards, I would have to think.
For sure.
Complicated because he's obviously, well, not obviously, but he was, I think, probably at the least bisexual. It's not never really explained, but he sort of has some affairs with men. And I just think Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan are both phenomenal in this film. I think it's getting a. I don't think it was loved. It's not getting much love at the awards, but I think, as someone who's a bit of a lover of like 60s and 70s aesthetic, the film is in black and white throughout the sort of 40s and 50s, and then at one point it goes to color, and the absolute love and attention to detail of the sets and the costumes are just phenomenal, and it's so lovingly crafted and authentic, that I think if you're just someone who enjoys watching, like, I'm trying to articulate this, is, like, even if you are not that into biopics, or you're not that interested in like a composer, just to see something done, crafted this well, is just worth watching in itself.
No, I agree.
And it's shot in I don't know aspect ratios, but it's like a square kind of thing. It's not
4:3.
Yeah, well, I guess yes.
That's the IMAX format. That's what Zack Snyder's Justice League was done as well. Yeah.
And I would say that this also contained for me the scene of the year. It was the scene that moved me the most, and it's based on a real performance that Leonard Bernstein did in some cathedral in England, and it's just beautiful. And it's a one shot kind of. Oh, I think a lot of it is one shot, and it's Bradley Cooper like kind of conducting this choral symphony kind of thing, and it has to be seen to be believed. It's just stunning, and scene of the year for me. If we could give out that award,
Nice one. Yeah, I want to check it out. I didn't realize it was a Netflix one, so now that I know, I know where to get it. I don't know who it was. It was a comedian recently, and they made a joke about the film, and I was like, you know what, like that's pretty funny. Where the guy was like, basically, this movie Maestro. It's about Leonard Bernstein, who's one of the greatest composers of all time, but the flick didn't get nominated for best score, and I
Yeah,
was like, that's pretty funny. Like,
yeah,
yeah. No, I like Bradley Cooper quite a bit. The guy's so versatile. Like, considering like his debut, like the thing that he kind of launched his career was Wedding Crashers. Like to
yeah. I know.
see, like as his angry, like toxic masculinity driven, like yuppie, and like to see him now, like the guy, yeah, just incredible to see what he can do every time he
Yeah,
shows up on screen.
I'm excited to see where he can go. I feel like he's really choosing award bait movies at the moment. So I kind of hope he just kind of lets that go and just because he's obviously very very talented directing and starring in films. So
Mm.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see where he goes from here. But yeah, Maestro really really great, and I hope people check it out.
Yeah, nice one. Um, my number three is also a Bradley Cooper film, um, and it's Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's the only Marvel film on my list this year. I really liked both the Marvels and Ant-Man Quantumania, um, but Guardians 3 like just delivered in a way I wasn't expecting. Like you've had two really good ones. You've had some great appearances from these characters in the Avengers films. Like you're off getting ready to make DC films. Like Guardians 3, you know, it doesn't need to it doesn't need to be maybe the best film in the trilogy, but somehow it gets pretty close. Um, and again, speaking of Bradley Cooper, like again, it's a voice performance like, with a
Mm,
CGI raccoon, and it's just so emotionally driven the whole way. Like the tone of this flick is so different. Like, each film has its own kind of different, distinct style and focus, yet still manages to be this cohesive trilogy. Um, it's just like everyone is at their best. Like we're getting to see like Chris Pratt do Chris Pratt, and Chris Pratt gets to be more emotional in this film because we're
mm,
seeing post Gamora, Peter Quill. We get to see Nebula really embracing this kind of band of misfits that is her family. Like she's been a villain in the first film and kind of this like anti-hero kind of crossing over in the second film, and now she's just accepted it. Like after spending time with Tony Stark in space and fighting alongside everyone, she's kind of like, all right, like I guess this is my home now.
mm.
Um, we don't get too much of Drax, which I'm okay with. Like, I like the character Drax, but he got a lot of spotlight in the last flick, so I'm glad I didn't mind him taking a back seat in this one. We get super buff Groot, which I really like.
Yeah,
Um, and there's a great sequence in the flick where he grows wings, and it got me really excited for Swamp Thing because James Gunn, one of his first DC movies they're doing is Swamp Thing, and like he has big leathery wings, like, and he's a plant and stuff as well. I'm like, oh, cool! Like I'm digging this vibe. Um, we get obviously Bradley Cooper as Rocket is excellent. Speaking about Pom Clementif, like I think this is our best version of Mantis
mm,
in
yeah,
total. Like
I
we
would
get
agree.
to see
I
her do
think
something.
she.
Go on, yeah, go on.
No, I was going to say, like, yeah, you're exactly right. I just thought, like, she was finally given something to chew on, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Like, and that's what I really liked about the holiday special as well. Is that it was created just to do some heavy lifting, so you go into number three with, so they didn't have to go through all the extra information of like
Yeah.
making her Peter's sister and stuff. But even in the holiday special, she got stuff to do. But this one was really good. I think uh, the High Evolutionary is one of the best villains they've ever done. Definitely the best Guardians villain we've seen. But I would also put him up there, like alongside Thanos, alongside Loki. Um, I just think like that performance is so like unyielding and so like he's so devoid of empathy. Like he's just
And he's just so, there's so much cruelty.
yeah, he's just like this creator, and like because he is in this position of creation, like everything is just toys to him. So it's almost like
Mm,
think of Sid in Toy Story and put him on like a galactic scale, and that's what
yeah.
it is. Like,
Yeah.
um, and I remember like when the without getting too much into the bleakness of the real world, when the Jonathan Majors scandal broke, and there was all this kind of talk about whether he would continue along as Kang or not, and like he's been dropped by Disney, and it's really unfortunate. Like obviously he's
Oh,
been
is that being confirmed?
yeah, like it happened within minutes. Like as soon as it was confirmed he was guilty or he was found guilty,
Oh,
Disney
yeah.
dropped him. Like I think they had a statement ready to go. But in a world where we're not going to get that, like I think the High Evolutionary, like we could make him a variant of Kang. Like why not?
Mm.
Like why couldn't he just be one that looked a bit different? Like he's so cruel and there's so much more to him. He didn't die. Spoilers. Like what a great villain to challenge our Avengers, like on a more global scale or universal scale.
Yeah. The only thing I want to pull you up on was, um, I reckon he wasn't quite as good. I really liked Lee Pace as Ronan in the first Guardians. He was my favorite Guardians villain, so that was the only thing I'd challenge you on.
I like Lee Pace's Ronan. I just feel like he didn't really do anything. Like he destroyed. He didn't like in the final battle. He just watched as they danced, and then he got destroyed by the stone. I thought his performance was good. I just felt like he didn't have anything to do. Whereas like Chuck Waddy as the High Evolutionary, like was constantly causing pain. Like
Mm.
but I do agree with you.
Yeah.
Like Lee Pace is a wonderful actor. I just would have liked him to do more. And they put him in the Marvels, and they didn't even give him anything to do. I don't know the Marvels. In Captain Marvel, he did almost nothing. So he was just very
Mm.
underutilized.
But yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you've said about the film. Like it was super dark, wasn't it?
Mm,
The Rocket storyline. But I think one of the more beautiful endings with
yeah.
the Florence and the Machine song.
Did you see the
Um,
clip of her watching Guardians and then seeing her song come up?
no,
Like
I didn't.
it's really sweet. Like she's watching and then she's burst into tears 'cause she's like, "Oh, this is the perfect use of my song." Um, it's I would say the most obscure of the soundtracks. Whenever a Guardians film comes out, you're looking to see like what the soundtrack is. And I think they went really deep on a lot of the songs, to the point where I did like in the first two soundtracks, I knew most of the songs. In this one, I knew like maybe three. I was like, they've got really deep on this one. Um, what's his name? Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. Like, what a fun addition! Like this overpowered baby child, like baby man, like character. Like in the comics, he's kind of like the Silver Surfer. He's very like measured and like very strong and powerful, but very. But in this, they're like, no, he's in his infant stage, so he's like, just like a, he's like grow
Yeah,
up, like he's too strong for his own good. Um,
yeah. I would say that that Adam Warlock character was great, but to me, he was like kind of totemic. Is that the right word? Yeah. Of
I liked it.
um, of like the trouble I think Marvel got themselves into, and one of the issues I think was like, to me, it was like such a massive, like the post credit scene of the second Guardians where we're introduced to Adam Warlock, and maybe this is
Mm,
just my expectation, and it's like my issue, but like, there was a lot of those characters, a lot of things teased,
mm,
and I didn't really think, like, if you're like me and you don't really know who Adam Warlock is before he's teased, and then you get to talk to like someone like you, James, and you get to hear that Adam Warlock's like an insanely powerful character, and you're like, holy smokes, this is going to be massive. And the thing with, I thought Will Poulter was fine in the role, and it was like a good addition, but I was like, oh, is this the payoff of that, of Adam Warlock being like teased? And I thought it just got me a little bit down about uh, the whole like house of cards they've built for themselves with like, a
mm.
teaser at the end of each film teasing, like, didn't Charlize Theron show up in some post credit scene? I
Doctor
remember
Strange,
seeing some.
Multiverse of Madness. She plays Clea. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, you you go to the effort of doing that, and then if the payoff is just like a, I don't know. That's what I just thought that was a bit
Well,
totemic.
I definitely see your point, but he is the catalyst for the entire journey of the film. Like they don't like he's the one who mortally wounds Rocket. Like he's the one who gets the whole story going, and then by the end of it, he becomes like the new addition of the team. And like it sounds like they're going to keep making Guardians of the Galaxy films. Like the end credits, like spoilers, they tease a Star Lord adventure, like Star Lord on Earth, which I think is a really cool concept. But then also there's this idea, like the idea of like I think James Gunn was saying, he's like, look, I've handed over the reins, but I know Kevin wants to do more with the characters, and I'm sure he'll find the right person to step in. Like like the way they kind of frame this new team with Nebula at the helm and like Adam Warlock there, and this weird giant like boulder Groot, like with a massive head and stuff. I think there's still so much more to be explored. Like I'm really, I said Nebula's captain, but I think Rocket's captain, isn't he? I forgot. Um, I think there's so much more to be explored with those characters, and also I think Adam Warlock will maybe play a more pivotal role in Secret Wars. I think the biggest thing was people were like, "Oh my goodness, in the comics he fights Thanos, so we're going to get him against Thanos," and it was way too early for him to fight Thanos. He didn't have any. It was kind of like Captain Marvel in an end game. Like I love Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, but we didn't. We probably should have seen Captain Marvel a couple of years earlier to really build up her inclusion. Like that's if I can flaw Endgame at all, that might be the one thing. It's like, we kind of got her shoehorned in between movies because like we need someone powerful. And then like in Endgame, she didn't even play a huge role in it. Like it was cool to see her then. She definitely helped in that final battle, but it wasn't like if she wasn't there, I don't think she would have been missed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like she has that great moment where like Thanos headbutts her and does nothing. She has to use an Infinity Stone to beat her up. Like that's cool, but like she's so absent for most of that movie, it wouldn't have mattered either way, I think. I think that's what would have been the same thing with Adam Warlock. But and we haven't like I've really avoided all the emotional stuff because it is such a heartbreaking film. But like I remember we walked out of it, and Tina's review of it was this: that movie was amazing. I'm never watching it again.
Yeah,
Like,
that's pretty fair.
yeah, it's so like all of the animal stuff is so heartbreaking, but just like beautifully executed and like it adds so much weight and depth to Rocket in the earlier films, like particularly in the first film where you see that shot of him from behind. He's got like all the bolts and stuff in his back. But then even I think it's later in the film where they go to nowhere for the first time and they're at the gambling table and Rocket threatens to shoot everyone because they're making fun of him. Like in the first time I saw that, I was like, man, that's really heartbreaking. Watching this one now and seeing it in context, I'm like, oh my god, like I don't know if I'm gonna watch one again. Like it's so heartbreaking. Um, but like all from a voice, like from a vocal performance, like yeah, it is the best superhero film of the year for me. Like, well, actually, the best live action superhero film of the year for me. There's a couple of animated ones coming up. But yeah, Guardians 3. I talked a long time about that. Sorry.
No worries. It was a good review. All right, now
Who
is it time to
does
find out?
number 2 work for?
He works for David Fincher because my number 2 was The Killer.
Oh, a nice one.
Again, David Fincher, one of my all-time favorite filmmakers. Pretty much love everything he does.
This was my
This
New Year's
was
Eve movie. I watched this on New Year's Eve.
brilliant. I'm so glad you've seen it. Like,
Yeah.
I can kind of spoil it.
Yeah, 100%.
But this was, it was an interesting new film for David Fincher because I've kind of gotten used to his films being fairly epic. You know, you think of Gone Girl,
Seven, Fight
like
Club.
yeah, to name but a few. You know, they're pretty epic in scope. And it was only released. Oh no, sorry, it was released on Netflix but had limited run in the cinemas. I would have loved to have seen it in the cinemas, but I just didn't get the chance. And it's starring Michael Fassbender, and he plays the titular killer. So he's an assassin basically who lives by a really defined set of rules, really, really disciplined. You know, like we see him waiting for a mark. I think it's in France, in Paris,
Yeah, it is.
at the start of the film, and he's like eating the exact amount of like protein that he needs. You know, he's like really routine, monitors his heart rate, and it basically shows him reacting after a hit goes bad, and he returns home, and his home's been ransacked, and his partner has been attacked, and so he basically goes on a revenge mission to get the people who did it. Some really cool cameos along the way. Tilda Swinton again in an awesome cameo.
What a scene. Like that scene is so brilliant.
Yeah.
There are two sequences. I mean, like that opening sequence is great, and it's like 20 minutes. And like we talked about this before we'd seen The Killer, but when you were last on the show, we were talking about like how 2023 was a year of reinvention for so many big directors like Scorsese going against the grain of what he usually does. Michael Mann going against what he usually does. And then we talked about the trailer for The Killer. Like, it looks like nothing Fincher's done before. And this is such an anti-Fincher film in so many ways.
Mm.
Like, it is very stark and slow, and and not slow as in boring, but it's like slow pace. But that scene with Tilda Swinton, right up to the way that her storyline ends, like, at a certain point, you're like, oh, like he's gonna waver, and instead, like, no, like, not at all.
Yeah.
And the scene with the house with the dog, like when he
Yeah.
goes, oh, like, yeah,
Yeah. Classic Fincher direction there, like just builds the tension, ratchets the tension up so well. And yeah, I don't know. I really, really loved watching this film. It was like, again, self-contained, didn't require any um, sort of like prior knowledge, but just it was probably 2 hours of like some of the most fun I've had all year, like watching movies all year. So
yeah,
yeah, absolutely loved it and would recommend it to everyone except for
nice,
young kids who don't need to see
yeah.
that many people die.
It's a great flick, and it's like I love that it's kind of like you normally watch a film about an assassin, and it's like it's like John Wick. It's fast paced, it's action packed. It's like this is probably more what it would be like. It's very routine based. There's a lot of waiting around. In fact, the opening of The Killer reminded me a lot of the opening of the Batman. Like,
Mm,
remember like how that opens with like Ave Maria playing, and like there's spying on like the governor's house, whatever. Like,
mm,
that's a bit faster paced. Like, it's a 3 hour film and it's faster paced, but it's the same sort of vibe. It reminded me of quite a bit.
yeah, and interestingly, like the killer is like the character is probably more of like a Michael Mann character than a
Mm,
Fincher character. So Fincher characters are always flawed and maybe a little bit emotional. If you think of like Brad Pitt in Seven, or
mm,
Ben Affleck, but the killer is like very disciplined, very professional.
mm,
Like he's more like a Neil from Heat, who played by Robert De Niro, than
mm,
and so I thought it was really interesting and
mm.
pretty cool.
I think it's based on a graphic novel, actually, The Killer.
Oh, really? I actually
Yeah,
didn't know that. That's really cool.
I think so. Yeah, I was looking it up, and it was based on I believe that's the graphic novel. Yeah. Um, yeah, The Killer was great. Really, yeah, that was my that was my New Year's Eve film. I was sitting alone watching The Killer. Um, my number two is a flick that could have easily been number one. It was probably the most surprising film for me this year. I When the trailers dropped, I was like, "This looks cool. I love the art style." But this franchise has been quite flawed in the past. But this flick, like, not only did it reinvigorate the franchise, like it is the best version of these characters I've ever seen, and it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
Wow.
This flick was such a delight. I went and saw it with my buddy Josh, friend of the show, Josh Sacco. Um, and I remember I think we went and saw Spider Verse together, and then we saw the trailer for Mutant Mayhem. And the one thing I love about that first Spider Verse film is it's inspired animation studios to stop following the Pixar model. I love the Pixar films. I love them till the ends of the. I think they're wonderful. They're well made, but they're so polished and clean and smooth, and like a Pixar film when you look at it. Like, you don't they just all look the same, the visual style. And then Spider Verse was like, hey, we're incorporating like four color imagery from classic comics, and we're going to layer on these different like animation styles. And then across the Spider Verse was like, hell, we're doing hand drawn stuff, we're doing digital animation, we're doing anime, and then Turtles looks like it was drawn by a child, like a child with some skills, but a child. Like, it's got scribbles in it, the way the characters are colored in, like they're not always in between the lines and stuff like that. Again, it's very much a family driven story. It's about these four like teenagers, actually played by teenagers for once, um, and they're outcasts. Like, all they want to do is join the world, but because they're different, they can't. Um, it's just like it's so much fun. It was written by Seth Rogen, who is on an absolute streak of adapting other people's properties. Like, Preacher was great. The Boys is great. this is like every time he touches someone else's franchise, like he just spins gold. He just knows how to adapt them. Um, the basic premise is that like the Ninja Turtles, like there's this rush of crime across New York City, and it turns out that like the ooze that turned them into the Ninja Turtles also like infected a bunch of other animals like around the same time, and now they're trying to claim the city back because they've been outcast as well. So whilst the turtles have been hiding respectfully, like these other ones are like, we want to make the world our own, and we're going to kind of like contaminate every human. So very basic like animated Ninja Turtles plot, but the voice performances are great. Like you've got Rose Byrne plays like this crocodile character. Uh, you've got Paul Rudd as Mondo Gecko, which is, I would say, the funniest performance in there. Ice Cube is the villain. Jackie Chan plays Splinter. Like it's just so much fun. Like from start to finish, it's so fun. It's so different. They managed to make a Ninja Turtles movie without Shredder, and it's good. Like because generally when they abandon Shredder, it doesn't work out for them too well. Because they don't have a lot of villains. So, like it's always like a mutated animal or Shredder. Um, it's and like it's just got so much heart in it. Like it's just so well intended. Like, and it's funny. Like all they want to do is like be superheroes and like save the city because then people accept them. And like if everything goes horribly wrong, it's just it's I can't hype it up enough. Like I couldn't believe how good this movie was, how enjoyable it was. Like it really took me by surprise. I figured it would be okay, but like I've seen every Ninja Turtles film they've made, I'm pretty sure, and like they don't even come close to this flick. It's just a whole nother level. It's a Nickelodeon film, so they go into gross out humor. Like there's literally a scene where like April O'Neil's like puking all over a desk. It's great. It's it I just can't again could not believe how great this film was. I showed it to Tina on my birthday, and she was like, "Where did this come from? Like, how is this movie this good?" It's just, it's a lot of fun. As I said, animation had a great year, and this is one of them. Love Ninja Turtles.
Well, it's streaming free on Prime. Apparently, I was just looking it up,
Oh, there you go.
so I'll
Go
definitely be adding that to the list. But
go
no,
watch it, everyone.
no, you know what? I'm here for like those kind of like movies that are really high on a list that like you just didn't expect. Like you probably remember back in the day, like I don't know if it was like a year end list or something like that, but I had like Sherlock Holmes to A Game of
Mm.
Shadows like on my like really high on my list, and it's like people probably wouldn't have thought of that either, but it's just like
When
you know
you
what
told me
if you
that, I think it was in your top 5 favorite films. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I watched. I'm like, oh my god, like he's right. Like it's
it's
really
just
good.
it's just really good, and like it doesn't need to be the most important film ever. It doesn't need to be the most important or critically loved film of the year. It's like if you had a great time watching it, then it bloody deserves to be there.
Yeah. I'm looking over because I'm like before you like I haven't gone. I think you said like, you hadn't gone too franchisey, and you really haven't. And I've been the complete opposite. All I've done is gone franchisey this year. But we've gone all the way. We're at number one. So you're about to do your number one, then I'll do my number one. We haven't crossed over yet, but I have a feeling your number one film may be on my list.
Well, we've it was Oppenheimer is my number one film of the year.
I like you like pretending to build up like it's Oppenheimer. That
Yeah,
doesn't surprise me at all.
and look, we spoke about it. Like I pretty much said what I wanted to say. When it came in at I think four for you, but an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah.
Like any Christopher Nolan film is a big event for me personally. Probably my favorite filmmaker. I just pretty much love every one of his films, and this was just like another great entry. Um, it was so epic. Seeing it in IMAX was another like absolute thrill. Like I think I'll try and see all of his new films in IMAX if I can. Um, and yeah, what a performance by Killian. I don't know. I
Mm.
think he's far and away leading most awards kind of thing. So it wouldn't surprise me if he kind of sweeps everything this year and wins everything. And I kind of get the feeling that Oppenheimer's that behemoth film that like comes along once every 10 years
Mm.
and does sweep awards like the like a Return of the King or
Titanic.
Titanic. Yeah. Can't think of more recently which ones have like kind of won everything, but it just feels like it's kind of got so much momentum now.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
like honestly, I like looking over the movies we talked about today. Like the only person I could think of who comes close would be Barry Keoghan in Saltburn, because just because such a unique performance. But like, I don't think he even got nominated. I don't think he even got like a
no,
nod. Like, I haven't seen the holdovers yet. Like that might be his biggest. His like Paul Giamatti might be his biggest competition. I think at this stage.
mm,
Um, yeah, sorry, I
that
didn't
was
mean to
it.
derail your chat.
No, no, that's it. Like it's kind of one of those things where we, yeah, as I said, we kind of did the main conversation on Oppenheimer when it came up for you. But yeah, great film.
Nice, nice one,
Where's the
man.
number one?
My number one um, is also a flick I had really high hopes for, but I wasn't expecting much. And that's because 30 years ago they tried to make this into a movie and it was a colossal failure. Now I like the original one quite a bit, but it doesn't represent the IP it's based on at all. When I went to it, it was such a crowd pleaser. Like I've watched this movie more than any other movie in the last year. I saw it in theaters when it came out on Blu-ray. I showed Tina, and she loved it. And then a couple of weeks later, I showed Zoe it, and since then she's watched it at least once a week, nonstop. I would say for the last 3 months. And it's one of those films where every time I walk past and it's on, I'll just stop and just watch it. I'm like, you know what? It's still good. It's still good. And like, if I'm not working and it's on, I'll sit down with it and I'll finish the movie. It's that entertaining. It's probably not going to win any awards. It's probably, I'm sure some people will be upset by this because it's maybe not like a high quality of like award caliber film, but it's a Super Mario Brothers movie. That flick is so much fun. I stopped counting, like after the third time, I stopped counting how many times I saw it because I've probably seen the flick in pieces 10 to 15 times. Like she watched it that many times, and every time I was like, oh, I'll just check it out for a bit. And suddenly, like 20 minutes had gone by. Like, the voice cast is perfect. Like Chris Pratt, I know he was under a lot of fire because like he's just doing Chris Pratt voice. He didn't. He was doing a Brooklyn accent. They're from Brooklyn. Charlie Day as Luigi is excellent. Anya Taylor Joy as Peach is really wonderful. Keegan Michael Key makes Toad likable. And then Jack Black, obviously as Bowser, is just so much fun. And that's what this movie is. Like it's fun. It's so much fun. I could just put it on and just like drift away and fall into the story. And I've seen it so many times. You'd think I'd be sick of it, but I'm not. Whenever it's on, I'm like, great, Mario's on again. I'll sit down and watch it. Awesome. Um, as a hardcore fan of the games, I've been playing those games for over 30 years now. This film has more references to its history than any other movie I've seen based on IP ever. Like, I'm not saying every scene, I'm saying every shot there is a reference to something. Like the opening chase scene where they're running like to get to like the plumbing job. The layout of the path they walk is exactly the same as the first level in the original Mario Brothers game. Like it even ends with them sliding down a flagpole. Um, the music, like they take literal music grabs or needle drops from almost all of the games. Um, I just, it just, it's a, again, I've used this phrase a lot. I feel like I'm wearing it out, but the flick is a magic trick. It should not work as well as it does. But like, and there's a moment where like they managed to like sneak so many things. Like there's like a flashback, so you get a little bit of Baby Mario, Baby Luigi action, which is a reference to Yoshi's Island. There's this whole montage at one point where like Peach is talking about how she arrived to the Mushroom Kingdom, and you see like teenage Peach training. And every time I see that, I turn to Tina, and she's sick of me saying it. I'm like, I would watch a whole movie just based on Peach arriving and like growing up in the Mushroom Kingdom. Like it's so interesting to me. It it's so much fun, and like it's just I just don't see. There's no one I've shown it to who hasn't liked it. Like everyone who I've shown it to is like, yeah, it's great. Like it works. Like it's just so much fun. Like it's not defining the human existence. It's not going to break your heart and put it back together. It's not going to show you like the technique, like any great stunts or technical abilities. But it is going to leave you with a smile on your face for an hour and a half, and that's what movies are all about. Like it's just helping you disengage and enjoy. I love it. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I remember you telling me it was really great, and I put it on my list, and then just never got around to watching it. But I think I'm gonna have to like bump it up to like Code Red must watch soon because like it does just sound like a great time. And the question I had for you was, do you feel like this is gonna spawn a franchise? Do you think they'll come back to it, or do you think it's like a lightning in a bottle movie where it's like one and done?
Um, well, it made over $1 billion until Barbie. It was on track to be the highest grossing film of the year, and then Barbie knocked it off. But otherwise, it was going to be the highest grossing film. Um, no official announcements have been made, but also it came out right before the writers' strike. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're already working on it.
Mm.
I feel like it does set up a sequel. Like it very vaguely, like there's a post credit sequence, and like they just tease a character. That's all it is. But like they've already kind of expanded, like because Donkey Kong is a huge part of the story as well. I feel like because that was the thing. Like everyone's like, it's so shallow. There's not a lot of depth to it. I'm like, it's about a plumber who like eats mushrooms and jumps on turtles. Like what kind of depth were you looking for? Like, do you know what I mean? Like it's Mario.
Yeah.
Uh, like those first games didn't even have a story really. Like there's a story in the instruction booklet. But yeah, I think there's a lot they can do it because we've seen like because we've got like 40 years of video games. There's so much they can explore. Like they haven't even scratched the surface. There's so many different places they can go. I know they're currently working on a Zelda movie. So I think
Whoa. Wow.
they announced that. I think the idea is, I think they're going to MCU it. I think they're going to kind of like do their standalone movies, and then like honestly, if their goal isn't to do a Super Smash Brothers movie, I don't know why wouldn't you just like bring them all together that way? Like they found a way to make Mario Kart a part of it, but then there's so many other great characters. Like Mario's got nemesis in like Wario and Waluigi, and Luigi's got a girlfriend Daisy in the games. Like we didn't get a chance to meet her because we're just looking at those core characters. There's so many different places you can go. Like we didn't really go to any of the worlds. Like the movie is very self-contained to the Mushroom Kingdom and like to like the Jungle Kingdom, and that's about it. So you can go to like the desert world. You can go to like Giant World. There's so many different places from the games you can go. Um, if you want to go down the Mario 64 world, there's like haunted houses and like underwater like labyrinths. So there's and they do reference those things as well. But there's so many different places you can go. There's so many characters. Um, in the games, Bowser has like 8 children, like who aren't even touched on in this game, plus baby Bowser. This, yeah, I franchise is inevitable, but I'm here for it because if they just make it as entertaining as this one, not even as good as this one, as entertaining, like I'll follow that ride. Of course, it's great.
Mm.
Yeah,
Now, do you miss the Goombas?
there are some Goombas in it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, there's a really great joke where like the first time we really see Bowser in his element, because Bowser's in the first scene, and then we kind of get introduced to Mario and Luigi, and we follow them for a while. But we come back to Bowser, like he's in his domain, which is like this flying lava spaceship, whatever, and like heavy metal's playing because it's basically meant to be hell, and like he's making an announcement, is like, Goombas, Koopa Troopers, whatever those things are. And it cuts to this creature which you've seen in every game, but you don't know what it's called, and even Bowser doesn't know. Like it's just like a great little like tongue-in-cheek joke. You're like, awesome, I love this. Um, yeah, it's so much fun, man. Like it's just and I don't want to oversell it. Like you might watch and be like, I don't know, James, like number one film of the year, but like it's just like a really good feel good popcorn movie where it's exactly what going to the movies should be. Is
Mm,
like just let
mm.
me kind of like get lost in an adventure for an hour and a half.
Yeah,
Um,
that's like perfect. That's exactly what you want for a number one film.
yeah. It seems like Jack Black is not going to get nominated for Academy Award for Peaches, which is ironic because Ryan Gosling is probably going to get nominated for I'm Just Ken, which I would say is equally ridiculous and in a
Mm.
good way. But anyway, um, so two really different lists, but we covered a lot of great movies, and I've seen the good things. I've seen a good number on yours, not everything, but quite a few, which is good.
Yeah.
Um,
So a few themes from my list, which really like kind of surprised me, is like this is probably the first year in at least 10 years where I didn't have a Marvel film in fact, no superhero film in my top 10, which is
yeah,
which is crazy. And only Mission Impossible, John Wick, and Barbie and Haunting in Venice are all part of like series or like they're based on IP. I mean, sorry, you could say everything's based on IP. It's a pretty broad statement, but I mean based on like existing kind of IP in the culture. So four of my movies based on IP. The rest were kind of more original ones. So yeah, I thought it was a really great year. Having said that, I definitely fluctuate, and this was definitely a TV year for me when I think about some of the TV shows I've gotten through. And so, like when you mentioned you had heaps of honorable mentions, like I do not have many at all. I just did not prioritize getting to the movies as much this year. So
Mm.
yeah, interesting.
Well, speaking of honorable mentions, I watched almost no TV last year. I plan to catch up on it. I watched The Last of Us. I got that towards the end of the year, but that was probably the big thing I watched from TV. It was great. I loved every minute of it, but I didn't watch a ton of it. Um, do you have any honorable mentions? And then we'll get out of here.
I do. Honorable mentions that didn't quite crack the top 10. So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for me. Watched it and really enjoyed it. But again, I sort of probably mentioned a couple of things that I bumped against in that, which maybe stopped it getting in there. Um, Rebel Moon, which came out really late in the year, late in December, was Zack Snyder's kind of.
Unfairly maligned, that one. That's in my honorable mentions as well. I really liked Rebel Moon.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I probably just didn't. I was looking forward to it for probably the whole second half of the year. Incredible trailer, and I just didn't think it. I thought that you know what is it was an example of a film where it's like, why don't you just release the director's cut right now? There's clearly going to be a Snyder cut of this,
Yeah.
and it was just way too crowded. So like,
Or
I,
like,
I
why didn't you just release it as a 4-hour film? Like, you're on
yeah,
streaming. Like, yeah, why release in two parts? Because I agree. Because like it was build, 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 build the team, and then like the movie ends. You don't really get to experience the
yeah.
team really. So yeah.
No, well, that's right. And like each, as she's putting her team together, each person gets like their 5 minute kind of backstory as they are recruited, kind of thing. But then
Pardon me.
it's like it's not enough to actually kind of form any sort of connection to them. So like
Mm.
the stakes just aren't that high at the end. And yeah, I don't know, just probably just didn't live up to what I wanted. And then
She was great though.
on
Sophia Botella was excellent in it, I thought.
she was, yeah. And then the final one was the creator,
Oh, I
which
loved it. I watched
was
that the other day. It's so good.
yeah, really great. But again, just couldn't quite crack my top 10.
Nice one. I've got a few more, but I'll go through it pretty quickly because it is after 10 o'clock. So there's a great Spanish film that came out last year called When Evil Lurks. It's a possession film, and it had some really like great practical effects, really gory. And like last year we had Evil Dead Rise, which was a bit of a disappointment for me, but this flick like did everything I wanted Evil Dead Rise to do. Um, I'm not a huge fan of found footage horror, but there's a great movie that came out on Shudder called Hell House Origins, and basically it's a haunted house film. And again, I'm not really big on those found footage ones, but this one it was never boring. Like it was shot well, the performances were good, and like the I'm not big on jump scares, but they were planned really well and executed really well as well. Um, Another horror flick, also on Shudder, called Influencer. Basically, it's about a woman who abducts and steals the identities of like social media influencers. Like it's a really fun thriller. A friend of mine recommended it. I'm like, what have you got me into? Like, the first 5 minutes I was not on board, and then when the twist came in the first 20 minutes, I'm like, this is great. And even though like you're following the villain the whole time, you kind of want to root for her, even though she was clearly horrible. Um, I really liked Anyone But You with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. Like I thought the trailer was really fun and it made me want to go check it out. I've never been huge on rom coms, and the thing that really surprised me with this one is that the comedy was fine, but I really dug the romance story, which I tend to not buy into. But I thought it was done really well, and felt, you know, maybe more realistic than some rom coms. I liked that quite a bit. The creator, which you mentioned, I thought was great. John David Washington, like what a fantastic actor.
Mm.
Like, and that little girl, like, oh my goodness, like these kids are incredible. Beau is Afraid, the new Ari Aster film with Joaquin Phoenix, just a wonderful acid trip of a movie. Um, Knock at the Cabin, definitely lower on the list of honorable mentions, but I feel like M. Night Shyamalan always gets a raw deal, and I actually really like his work. And also, David Batista gives an incredible performance in it. Like, he plays it really well. I'm so used to him doing Drax, but he's got some chops. Scream 6 was really fun. Like, for the sixth movie in a franchise, like, it'd be very easy to just fall into the same old tropes, and they keep it fresh and new. Barbie, obviously great. Renfield was a lot of fun. Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage. Um, a really fun Dracula film. And Ben Schwartz, who from Parks and Rec, who plays John Ralphio, like, he plays like this mob boss character. And it's just like, it's great. And Nicholas Hoult, like, is so good in this movie. No Hard Feelings, the Jennifer Lawrence, like, kind of adult comedy where she's a 35-year-old woman dating a teenager. That was really fun. Um, Talk to Me was an absolute triumph of a horror film. It's like we haven't had a good Australian horror film in a long, long time, and this flick was scary and interesting and, like, so well made. It was created by two guys who were making YouTube videos up until this movie, I think. So, really good movie. Killers of the Flower Moon, obviously we've talked about. The Marvels, I thought was severely criticized for no reason. Yeah, the villain's not the strongest, but there's wonderful things in it, and that post-credit scene is really fun. Rebel Moon we talked about, and The Killer as well. So 20, like, and that, like, there's 20 other movies that didn't make my
Yeah,
honorable mentions that I did watch.
it's a strong list.
Yeah, it's 2023 was a great year for movies, and I just love how, like, we've given everyone, like, because my number 10 was 4 movies. We've given them like 23 movies to watch now from last year. So
Yeah.
um, nice one. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this epic of an episode?
Long live movies, mate. I'm excited to see what next year's going to bring. I hope there's some really cool new original stuff coming out. It was a pretty good year this year for our classic directors. Like, I feel like
Mm.
the film snob family of directors. I mean, certainly, like, as far as when I come on, we got a Fincher, we got a Scorsese, we got a Man film, which I wish I could have seen Ferrari. So yeah, really cool year, I think.
No, 100%. I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to is Argyle. I hadn't seen any trailers for it until recently. The new Matthew Vaughn film looks really
Mm,
fun.
yeah, it does. Uh, I think I've enjoyed every one of his films. So that must be coming out pretty soon, right? I feel like I've been
Yeah,
watching
well,
trailers
I
for that.
just saw on Instagram before we recorded that Cavill's begun the press circuit, so it must be in the next
Yeah,
couple of weeks. Um, and then,
what a
like,
king.
no DC movies at all this year, and only one Marvel film, and it's Deadpool 3, which is going to be huge.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that'll be great.
but nice one. Well, look, mate, it was an absolute pleasure getting you back on the show. As I said, it's not just my most anticipated episode, but just to sit down and talk like movies in review for like the last year is always something I look forward to. So couldn't have thought of anyone better to bring on the show. So it was great to have you on. I'm glad you were able to free up some time. So thank you for that.
Oh, it's always lovely to come on, mate.
Uh, Before we get out of here, quickly, if you want to follow me on social media, head over to Instagram. I was a teenage film snob, underscores between every single word. I've been a little bit less active on there lately because I've been working so much and watching movies. But I post pretty regularly normally, and I've been working on a little project which I've almost finished. Once that's done, I'll talk more about it on socials. If you want to buy some shirts or stickers, head over to tpublic.com, search for I Was a Teenage Film Snob, or jump into my links on Instagram. Um, you get 20% off if you're a first time buyer, and the shirts look great. They were designed by Josh, who's been on here plenty of times. So that's how you can support the show. And I make pretty much no money off it. So it's really just about getting the imagery out there. And that will do it. So thanks again to Nick Owen. Obviously, just a powerhouse of a guest, and can't wait to have him back again. He'll be coming on, I guess, soon to talk about movies from the 2000s. But until then, thank you everyone for listening. And as I say every single week, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.